Chapter 150, Chapter 150, Eliminating the Yeti Alien. The newcomer was none other than Chen Suzi. Old man, you. Grandpa Max was stunned. He thought Chen Suzi had already escaped. Chen Suzi didn't answer. His expression remained calm, neither joyful nor sorrowful. Even as he faced the ferocious Yeti, his eyes stayed steady, without the slightest trace of fear. "And Yuan and at." He began murmuring something under his breath, chanting what sounded like an ancient incantation. The words were strange and indecipherable. Grandpa Max had never heard anything like them. Roar! By then, the hulking Yeti had already charged in close. It raised its dagger-like claw, still smeared with bits of flesh, and brought it down in a vicious arc, aiming to crush Chen Suzi's skull. "Old man, get out of the way!" Grandpa Max shouted, panic rising in his chest. By all logic, Chen Suzi couldn't possibly be a match for that monster. He and Phil were already as good as dead. Letting the old man escape would at least mean someone might survive and maybe later, bring their bodies home. "Young man, don't panic." Chen Suzi laughed, his voice steady and fearless. Buzz! In the next instant, brilliant golden light burst from the folds of his robe, flooding the air and reflecting in the Yeti's pupils. Roar! The creature bellowed, squinting against the searing light. Still, it pressed forward, bringing its claw down to smash Chen Suzi into pulp. Chen Suzi let out a sharp cry, pressing his palms together. From his body, a golden bell-shaped barrier materialized, gleaming like solid bronze, strong as a fortress wall. It met the Yeti's blow head-on and held firm. "My God! That's impossible!" Even the battle-hardened Grandpa Max was dumbfounded. What he was seeing defied everything he thought he knew about humans. Roar! Roar! The Yeti's eyes flared crimson as it went berserk. That an earthling could block its attack enraged it beyond reason. It threw punch after punch, each one heavier than the last, determined to smash Chen Suzi's defense to pieces. Buzz! Buzz! Under the relentless assault, the golden barrier began to tremble and flicker, its glow wavering like a candle in the storm, threatening to vanish at any second. Chen Suzi's face had gone pale, and blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. "Old man, fight back!" Grandpa Max yelled anxiously. If Chen Suzi could withstand the blows, why wasn't he counterattacking? He would only learn later that the technique known as the Golden Bell Shield was purely defensive. It couldn't strike back. Like a turtle retreating into its shell, it could only endure. "Go! I can't hold on much longer," Chen Suzi said through gritted teeth, blood staining his beard red. The enraged Yeti clenched its massive fists and pounded the barrier again and again. Cracks spread across the golden surface like spider webs, threatening to break apart completely. "I'm not leaving!" Grandpa Max shouted, stubborn as ever. He would rather die fighting than run away. And even if he tried to flee now, he wouldn't make it far. Once Chen Suzi fell, the Yeti would chase him down in seconds. There was no escaping death. Driven by sheer will, Grandpa Max forced his battered body to move. Every bone screamed in pain as he crawled toward the fallen laser rifle. Boom! The golden bell barrier finally gave out under the Yeti's furious assault. It exploded into countless shards of light that scattered across the snow before fading away into the air. Pfft! Chen Suzi let out a choking sound, spitting up a mouthful of blood as his body fell backward. The Yeti, sensing victory, lunged forward, his massive black claws reaching out to crush Chen Suzi's frail body. Just as those razor-sharp claws were about to strike, a sudden flash erupted. A piercing blue laser shot in from the side, streaking through the air like lightning and drilling straight into the Yeti's eye. Roar! The creature screamed in agony, staggering back while clutching its right eye. A few seconds later, its movements froze. Blood streamed down from its ruined eye as its massive body toppled stiffly to the ground, lifeless. That single shot had destroyed its brain. No matter how strong the Yeti's body was, it couldn't withstand that kind of damage. Grandpa Max lay flat on the ground, rifle in hand, still locked in the same aiming posture as before. Watching the creature collapse, he exhaled deeply. Phew, finally done. Still wary, he fired a few more shots into the fallen Yeti before slowly pushing himself up and hurrying over to check on Chen Suzi. Wait a sec. Ben suddenly interrupted. What now, doofus? Gwen rolled her eyes. He had a habit of interrupting right at the good part. Putting on his best detective act, Ben said solemnly, let me guess Chen Suzi sacrificed his life to save Grandpa. The golden bell shield shattered under the Yeti's blows, and he died heroically. Wow, such a touching story, Gwen said dryly, pretending to wipe away tears. You've definitely fried your little brain, she sighed, shaking her head. Lucian smiled and asked, Grandpa, it didn't really happen like that, did it? Not quite. The story's not that corny, Grandpa Max said, waving his hands. Chen Suzi was badly hurt, but I carried him several kilometers down the mountain until we reached a local hospital. He was saved just in time. For a while after that, I stayed by his side to take care of him. Even after Phil left, I chose to remain. When Chen Suzi recovered, he started teaching me all kinds of strange things, herbal remedies, Chinese dishes. Oh, right. That live rice worm recipe I know? Learned it from him too, Grandpa Max chuckled. Grandpa, didn't he teach you any martial arts? Gwen asked eagerly. The golden bell shield sounded incredible. No. Grandpa Max shook his head in disappointment. I asked, but he said it was a family secret, something passed down only to his descendants. He wouldn't teach it to outsiders, especially not foreigners. Oh, come on. That's so unfair. You saved his life. Ben said, clearly annoyed. Ben, it's the other way around. He saved mine. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be standing here, Grandpa Max corrected him. Actually, he wanted to teach me, but his family's ancestral rules forbade it. He couldn't break them. That's weird. Even if he taught you secretly, it's not like his ancestors would ever know, Gwen said, puzzled. No. In China, people take those things seriously. They don't defy their ancestors' words, Grandpa Max replied firmly. Grandpa, do you really believe martial arts like that exist? Ben asked, frowning. I mean, it sounds impossible. Could an ordinary human really block an alien's attack with just their body? I'm not sure. Maybe it really does exist, Grandpa Max said after a pause. I did a lot of research afterward but found no solid evidence. Still, my guess is that the golden bell shield might have been some kind of alien ability. But Chen Suzi was human, right? Ben blurted out. Maybe he was half alien. That's just my theory, though nothing confirmed, Grandpa Max replied with a small laugh. Is Chen Suzi still alive? Lucian asked. If he ever got the chance, he wanted to meet the man, maybe learn something from him. Unfortunately, no. Chen Suzi passed away more than 10 years ago. I'm already old myself, and he was even older, Grandpa Max said with a weary smile. Oh, I see. But I did hear he had a grandson who became a plumber, Grandpa Max added thoughtfully. So his grandson might have inherited Chen Suzi's golden bell shield? Lucian asked. Could be. I've never met his descendants, though, Grandpa Max shrugged. All right, kids, that's the end of the story. Grandpa's going to take a nap. Gwen yawned and went back to her seat, opening her laptop again. Lucian and Ben exchanged a look, then each returned to what they were doing. Time passed quietly until Gwen's voice suddenly broke the silence. Ben Tennyson. Get over here. She slid her mouse angrily, glaring at the screen. What is it, dweeb? Another heroic moment starring yours truly. Ben joked as he leaned in beside her. Lucian, standing nearby, also walked over to look. Your friend sure knows how to stay busy, Gwen muttered, pushing the laptop toward them. On the screen, Ripyas was rampaging through a city street, roaring and clawing wildly as terrified pedestrians ran for their lives. The scene shifted. Diamond Head was on a highway, smashing cars apart with his crystal powers and laughing maniacally. Your good buddy's been wreaking havoc all over. Wild Mutt tearing through Tallahassee, Ripyas biting up Chicago, Ghost Freak scaring people half to death in Pasadena. Gwen listed off Kevin's crimes like an interrogator reading charges. I'll never forgive him. Ben growled, clenching his fists in fury. Just then, a large bus sped past the rust bucket. Its exterior was covered in black and green liquid, gleaming like fresh paint. It's Kevin, Lucian said sharply, catching sight of it through the window. The hero's about to make his entrance. Ben's eyes lit up as he turned toward the Omnitrix. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Up to 50 chapters ahead for now. Patreon.com/pinksnake. Chapter 151, Chapter 151, The Runaway Bus. Ben pressed the Omnitrix, and the hero selection interface popped up instantly. He flipped through it quickly. I'm turning into 4 arms to stop that bus. He slammed the watch down, releasing a burst of green light. Roar! In the next instant, Wild Mutt appeared inside the rust bucket. Scratching his head, he let out a sigh. Ha, that's hilarious. The 4-armed guy turned into a giant alien dog. Gwen rolled her eyes. Her clueless cousin had picked the wrong alien again. Covered in orange fur, Wild Mutt growled softly, extended his sharp claws to pry open the door, and charged off after the bus. Wild Mutt alone won't be enough to deal with Kevin. I need to help, Lucian said, pressing his own Omnitrix. Thud. A flash of green light burst out, and XLR8 appeared, its slender tail flicking behind. Cuz, take me with you. Gwen called, stepping closer. She wanted to help fight Kevin too. I'm off. XLR8's raspy voice came just before he blurred into a streak of blue light, shooting out of the rust bucket and vanishing down the road. Cough, cough. Gwen choked on the smoke trail left behind, her face covered in soot. Grandpa Max, his expression stern, turned from the driver's seat. Hold on tight, Gwen. We need to catch up. I'm worried Kevin might try something again. The kid's really not in good shape. Okay. Gwen quickly nodded, buckled herself into the passenger seat, and sat upright. Vroom. With a deep roar, the rust bucket launched forward like an arrow from a bow, racing ahead and leaving 2 blazing red trails in its wake. On the other side, the massive bus was completely overtaken by Upgrade. Its surface was covered in black and green metallic organic matter, and Kevin was at the wheel, driving it recklessly downhill. Cars along the way were slammed aside. When a huge truck appeared in its path, Upgrade detached a spinning saw blade, slicing the vehicle clean in 2 before continuing its rampage without slowing down. At the end of the road was a vast, bottomless lake. If the bus plunged into it, none of the passengers would survive. Inside, people were screaming in terror, pounding on the windows and crying for help. Oh God, someone save us! I don't want to die yet. Wah! I've never even had a boyfriend. I haven't tasted love. I've got parents and kids at home. My family depends on me. What'll happen to them if I die? Mom! I want my mom. If only superheroes were real. They'd save us for sure. What superheroes? You think this is a movie? For a moment, cries, pleas for help, and angry shouts blended together inside the bus. The driver's eyes were bloodshot. Controlled by the Upgrade, he was tightly bound to his seat, unable to move, forced to watch helplessly as the bus sped toward certain doom. Roar! Wild Mutt leapt into the air and landed on the roof of the bus, trying to figure out how to save everyone inside. Suddenly, Upgrade's head formed from the slick metal surface, gleaming with a cold, wet sheen. Kevin's green, circular eye glared as he sneered, "Sorry, Ben. No pets allowed on board." The moment he spoke, Upgrade's body split into two sharp blades that swung in from both sides with a deadly sweep. Sensing danger, Wild Mutt dodged to the side. Swoosh! The twin blades sliced through the air, grazing Wild Mutt's flank and cutting off a tuft of orange fur, a close and deadly call. With a furious roar, Wild Mutt threw himself forward, lunging at Upgrade's head. But before he could reach it, a massive fist slammed into his back, crushing him against the roof. Pain seared across his body. Gritting his teeth, Wild Mutt clenched his claws and pushed back against the pressure, straining with all his strength until he finally broke free from Upgrade's grasp. He stumbled backward, retreating to the edge of the roof. "Good buddy, you're done for." Upgrade sneered coldly. Thud! 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 Sharp spikes erupted from the metal beneath Wild Mutt's feet, driving straight toward him. Roar! The violent attack forced him back. Losing balance, Wild Mutt tumbled off the roof and hit the ground hard. He pounded the pavement in frustration. He couldn't beat Kevin like this. Meanwhile, the out-of-control bus was now less than 20 meters from the lake. Inside, the passengers screamed in panic, faces twisted in terror as they shouted for help. "Please, someone save us. I don't want to die. I haven't even had a boyfriend yet. I've never been in love. My parents and kids depend on me. What'll happen to them if I die? Mom! I want my mom. Yoo-hoo! I'm in a generous mood today. Free fish food for everyone. No need to thank me." Kevin laughed wildly. Free fish food indeed, but the cost would be every passenger's life. Just as Kevin's twisted plan was about to succeed, a blue streak tore across the highway, darting between cars and blocking the bus's path. XLR-8 stood at the edge of the lakeshore, the dark, endless waters behind him, but there was no trace of fear in his stance. Facing the charging upgrade-controlled bus, XLR-8 tapped the Omnitrix on his chest. "Humongousaur. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Up to 50 chapters ahead for now. Patreon.com/pinksnake. Chapter 152, Chapter 152, The Black Stockings Lady? Ding! Alien hacker mission triggered. Intercept the out-of-control bus and rescue all passengers on board. Upon successful completion, receive a random enhancement effect. A rapid series of system alerts echoed through the mind of Humongousaur. Its massive frame, thick arms, and brownish-yellow skin radiated raw, primal power. Standing firm between the bus and the lake, Humongousaur was like an indestructible great wall, immovable and unyielding. Kevin had already noticed Humongousaur. A cold sneer curled across his face. "So it's you again, Lucian. This time, I'm not losing to you." He slammed the throttle down, sending the bus hurtling forward, determined to smash Humongousaur into a pile of flesh. VRRRM. The black and green bus roared at full power, blue flames bursting from its rear. With a violent howl, it charged straight at Humongousaur. Inside, the passengers had already descended into chaos, screams overlapping in panicked hysteria. I don't want to die. Help! If we hit that giant dinosaur and piss it off, we'll die even faster. Fuck! I haven't even spent all my money yet, and I'm gonna die in this dump. Wah! I hope the big dinosaur saves us. Are you kidding me? Trusting a monster to save us, a pock-marked man shouted, his breath foul. We'd be lucky if it doesn't kill us first. Then why don't you go out there and save us yourself? Someone snapped back immediately. At a time like this, who else was there to rely on besides the giant dinosaur? Wait for the city enforcement team? By the time they arrived, the bus would have sunk to the bottom of the lake, and everyone would be fish food. Exactly, another voice agreed. Faced with the rising anger around him, the pock-marked man shut up at once, too afraid to provoke the crowd further. By then, the bus had already barreled right up to Humongousaur. Lucian, once I kill you, Ben Tennyson won't get away either. Upgrade stuck his head out from the roof, laughing wildly. You're the reason I turned into this freak. I'm going to make you pay for it, bit by bit. Whoosh! The out-of-control bus charged forward like a raging bull, carrying terrifying momentum as it slammed toward Humongousaur. Humongousaur let out a furious roar and thrust out his powerful arms, gripping the speeding bus head-on. The instant they collided, an overwhelming force crashed into him. Humongousaur was forced back 2 steps before he barely managed to steady himself. Gritting his teeth, he absorbed the remaining impact and slowly brought the bus to a stop. Through the glass windows, the passengers stared at Humongousaur in stunned silence. For a moment, not a single sound could be heard, as if the air itself had frozen. Oh my god! I'm not dreaming, am I? After a brief pause, someone finally broke the silence. The bus instantly exploded with noise, like a boiling hot pot overflowing with emotion. I'm alive! I'm really alive! The dinosaur saved us! That dinosaur is so manly! He's my hero! A white-haired little girl shouted excitedly. The rush of surviving a brush with death filled her with pure exhilaration, and she didn't care about Humongousaur's appearance at all. Holy crap! Big Bro Dinosaur is so cool! Super, super, super awesome! Oh yeah! We're not going into the lake anymore! The girl in the red hood giggled, her rosy lips and bright smile full of innocence. Thanks to the dinosaur! I'm gonna treat him to candy! Every passenger on the bus was overflowing with excitement, erupting into deafening cheers that stabbed painfully into Upgrade's ears. That wave of enthusiasm was so intense that even Humongousaur could feel it through the glass. But he had no time to worry about that. Until Kevin was dealt with, he wasn't about to let his guard down. Successfully intercepted the out-of-control bus and rescued all passengers. Added 1 seamless hero switch. Current enhancement level, 2 seamless hero switches. Humongousaur felt a surge of joy. This meant he could now switch aliens twice in succession during battle, 1 more time than before. Even now, the bus was still under Upgrade's control. "Ha, Lucian, you're not bad," Upgrade sneered coldly. "Way better than Ben Tennyson. But you're the good guy, and I'm the unforgivable villain. Let me tell you this. Good guys never beat bad guys. Ha 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 ha." The moment he finished speaking, Upgrade extended a mechanical tentacle, brutally grabbing a young woman from inside the bus and flinging her toward the nearby lake. "Ah! Help!" The woman in black stockings screamed in terror, her soft black hair whipping wildly through the air as she was about to plunge into the lake. Humongousaur reacted instantly, scooping her up and pulling her into his arms. I'm going to die. Someone save me!" Held tightly against his chest, the woman kept her eyes squeezed shut, kicking her long legs frantically. One of her high heels flew off, yet she remained trapped in overwhelming fear. Humongousaur was incredibly strong. Holding a woman with 1 arm should have been easy. But her black stockings were far too smooth. Even though he had a firm grip on her legs, her body slowly slid downward. With her panicked kicking, she wriggled like a slippery little loach, gradually slipping out of his grasp. At the same time, Upgrade launched another attack, firing a green laser straight at them. Humongousaur made a split-second decision. With his free hand, he grabbed her leg to keep her from moving, then turned his body to block the laser head-on. "Ha ha ha ha, Lucian! You really are a saint!" Kevin laughed wildly as he unleashed scorching laser fire. "You'd rather get hurt yourself just to save people who don't even matter. That's why you'll never beat me. Only villains can survive in this world. What are you even saying? Humongousaur replied calmly, glancing at the laser striking his back. This kind of attack barely counts as a scratch. What? Kevin's expression changed instantly. Humongousaur snorted, gently setting the woman down before turning to face his opponent directly, his towering body radiating pressure. If it had been electrical attacks, he might have been cautious. Most Omnitrix aliens were vulnerable to electricity. But Upgrade's lasers meant nothing to an alien with skin as tough as his. Otherwise, Lucian would not have intervened. He acted because he was confident he could withstand the attack. Had it posed a real threat, he would not have risked himself for anyone else, not even the woman in black stockings. Lucian had his principles, and so did Humongousaur. He knew exactly who should be saved and who shouldn't. Damn it! Don't think that means I can't deal with you. Upgrade snarled. His body liquefied and condensed into a dense mass. He released control of the bus, standing atop it as he prepared to transform into another alien. Roar! Suddenly, Wild Mutt lunged in from behind, slamming into Upgrade and sending him flying. He rolled violently across the lakeshore. Ben Tennyson! You again! Kevin roared in fury as the two immediately grappled with each other. They clashed wildly, their struggle shaking the ground and sending violent ripples across the lake's surface. Humongousaur clenched his fists, his small eyes locked on the fight as he prepared to rush in. Big dinosaur, thank you for saving me. A pleasant female voice suddenly came from below. Humongousaur looked down and saw the woman he had just rescued. It was nothing, he said flatly, as if it were a trivial matter. With that, he stepped past her and strode toward the battlefield. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Up to 50 chapters ahead for now. patreon.com/pinksnake. Chapter 153, Chapter 153, The Dam System. The blue lake reflected the golden sun, hanging there like an egg soaking in a bowl, suspended between sky and water. Ben, if you want to beat me, go train for a few hundred more years. Upgrade stretched out its flexible arms, its body shifting rapidly before instantly morphing into a massive hammer. Roar! Wild Mutt kicked off the ground and shot forward like a cannonball, sharp claws slicing through the air as it lunged straight at Upgrade. Upgrade swung the iron hammer, carrying a surge of brutal force as it met the attack head-on. Boom! The solid hammer sent Wild Mutt flying in an instant, the impact exploding with a thunderous crash. Standing on the lakeshore, Upgrade watched Wild Mutt splash into the water and let out a cold laugh. Ben Tennyson, you're still too inexperienced. Kevin, your opponent is me. A deep, powerful voice came from behind. Humongousaur's massive figure appeared at Upgrade's back, towering like an undefeated god of strength, radiating an overwhelming aura. So it's you, Lucian, Upgrade chuckled. What, done playing the hero already? Enough talk. Make your move, Humongousaur snorted. Hey, don't rush. You should be thanking me, Upgrade said with a shrug. If I hadn't hijacked that bus today and thrown that woman out, how would you have gotten your heroic save the damsel moment? Yet, Humongousaur replied calmly. I really should thank you. As he spoke, he walked toward Upgrade, rolling his shoulders and clenching his fists, his knuckles cracking loudly. Upgrade sensed danger and immediately activated his energy, his body shifting at high speed. Not good. Kevin's turning into another alien again. Humongousaur's eyes widened as he charged forward at full speed, trying to take him down before the transformation finished. He tightened his fist, the air exploding with a violent whistling sound as his punch came crashing down. Whoosh! A blue afterimage shot past in the next instant, narrowly dodging the blow. Now transformed into XLR8, Kevin didn't slow down at all, sprinting straight toward the bus. In the blink of an eye, he was already standing on the roof, transforming back into Upgrade. By the time Humongousaur arrived, Upgrade had once again taken control of the bus. Its surface was coated in flowing black and green liquid, brimming with a high-tech sheen. "Didn't see that coming, did you, Lucian?" Upgrade burst out laughing. "As long as I can beat you, I don't care what methods I use." He planned to use the passengers' lives as leverage against this terrifying enemy. Seeing the monster return and hijack the bus again, the passengers were terrified out of their minds, screaming in despair. They pounded on the windows and shouted desperately, begging the approaching Humongousaur for help, hoping this kind-hearted dinosaur would step in once more and drive the monster away. The woman in black stockings stood frozen, staring blankly at the bus in front of her, her mind completely overwhelmed by fear. Ding! Alien hacker mission triggered. Intervene again to rescue the bus, free it from Kevin's control, and ensure all passengers' safety. Upon successful completion, receive a random enhancement effect. System alerts echoed through Humongousaur's mind. Time seemed to loop back to the beginning. The out-of-control bus. The lakeside shore. Humongousaur standing between them. The only difference was the woman in black stockings now standing in front of the bus. Humongousaur's mind raced as he considered how to save it. Free the bus from Kevin's control while keeping every passenger safe. The difficulty of this mission was no joke. Damn this system. If the reward is trash after this, I'm definitely cursing it out, Lucian muttered inwardly. Kevin quickly noticed the panicked woman in black stockings, and an idea immediately formed. "Little Lucian, don't you love playing the hero?" Upgrade laughed wickedly. "Then let me give you another chance." Humongousaur's gaze sharpened as he instantly stepped in front of her. SHK. 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 In the next moment, countless razor-sharp spikes burst from the surface of the bus, like a threatened porcupine bristling with deadly intent. Clang! 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 Spear-like black spikes slammed into Humongousaur's body again and again, sparks flying as metallic impacts rang out. Upgrade's attack had little effect on him. It stung slightly, but the spikes couldn't even pierce his skin, leaving nothing more than faint scratch marks. Several venomous, snake-like spikes slipped past Humongousaur's massive body with eerie agility, flashing with a cold, sinister gleam as they shot straight toward the woman in black stockings. Humongousaur roared in fury and threw out a rapid barrage of punches, smashing the ambushing spikes midair. Even so, a few still grazed her. The black stockings on her long legs were torn open with several large gashes. Her short skirt didn't fare any better. Under the sudden assault, it ripped apart, leaving it ragged and torn. Staring at the shattered spikes scattered on the ground, the woman swallowed hard and spoke with a trembling voice. Save me, big dinosaur. I don't want to die. Relax. With me here, you're not dying, Humongousaur replied in a low, rumbling voice. Joking aside, he was still counting on the system's reward. Letting any of the passengers get hurt was not an option. What a touching scene! I almost shed a tear, Upgrade mocked, dripping with sarcasm as he looked at Humongousaur. Humongousaur tightened his grip on the woman, then raised his head and said coldly. For dealing with you, one hand is enough. Then let's see you try. The moment the words fell, the bus erupted as thick, resilient tentacles burst out, surging forward in overwhelming numbers and engulfing Humongousaur. Countless vine-like tentacles bristling with sharp barbs intertwined into a massive net, trying to strangle him inside it. Big dinosaur! The woman's face turned deathly pale. Roar! Humongousaur let out an earth-shaking roar. His body swelled like an expanding balloon, rapidly growing larger. In just a few breaths, he shot up to 20 meters tall. Now towering over everything, Humongousaur clenched his fist and smashed apart the incoming tentacles one after another, unstoppable, carrying the momentum of a force that nothing could block. Big dinosaur, you're amazing! The woman stared with wide eyes, her red lips parted in shock and excitement. Boom! 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 The giant humungosaur tore through the tentacle cage like it wasn't even there, ripping it apart and charging straight up to the bus. Up you go! He hoisted the bus with one arm, grabbed the woman with the other, then spread his thick legs and sprinted away from the lake. As long as the bus was moved farther from the water, the passengers' danger would drop drastically. That way, he could finish the mission and deal with Kevin properly. Dense spikes erupted from the bus again, slamming wildly into Humungosaur's body, but they barely did anything. Seeing his attacks fail, Upgrade flew into a rage and abandoned the bus altogether. His body collapsed into a pool of black liquid that gathered on the roof. Then, with a powerful rebound, he launched himself backward and rolled to the ground behind Humungosaur. You forced this! Upgrade snarled viciously as his features twisted and reshaped, rapidly transforming into the towering diamond head. Humungosaur caught the change out of the corner of his eye. Damn it! Right now, he had the woman in one hand and the bus on his shoulder. He himself could tank Diamond Head's attacks without much trouble, but the passengers definitely couldn't. You're finished, Lucian. Take this. Diamond Head raised both arms, which transformed into dense clusters of sharp crystal spikes before blasting forward in a violent barrage. Crystal spikes filled the sky like a torrential storm, completely engulfing Humungosaur's massive form. Without time to think, Humungosaur stuffed the woman safely into his mouth, then freed one arm and wrapped it around the entire bus, shielding it with his body like an iron wall. Only this way could he keep everyone from being hit by Diamond Head's crystal rain of swords. The woman let out a muffled cry of surprise. Humungosaur felt his head spin as a strong wave of perfume filled his mouth. The overpowering scent nearly made him throw up. Chapter 154, Chapter 154, Almost Threw Up. Clang! 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 Emerald green crystal spikes poured down in a dense barrage, slamming into Humungosaur's back and throwing off brilliant showers of sparks. After growing to colossal size, Humungosaur's strength and defense had risen dramatically. The raised bone plates along his back could withstand most physical attacks. Diamond Head's crystal downpour shattered the moment it struck him, exploding into fragments like crushed jade and scattering across the ground. Damn it! How can his body be this tough? Diamond Head gritted his teeth, clearly shocked by Humungosaur's durability. At that moment, Humungosaur clamped the woman in black stockings in his mouth and hugged the bus tightly, striding away from the lakeside to put distance between it and the dark water. Big dinosaur, help me, the woman struggled desperately. From her neck down to her ankles, her entire body was held in his mouth, leaving her feeling both humiliated and flustered. Stop yelling. If you keep it up, I'll drop you, Humungosaur said indistinctly, his voice muffled with his mouth full. The strong scent of expensive perfume assaulted his senses non-stop. He decided that once this was over, he absolutely had to rinse his mouth out properly. After tanking Diamond Head's crystal sword rain, Humungosaur carried the massive bus all the way to the roadside, leaving behind a literal crystal road in his wake. He gently set the bus down on the safe stretch of pavement. Inside, the passengers felt a violent jolt, but it quickly settled. Seeing the powerful dinosaur save them yet again, they immediately burst into cheers. Oh yeah! The big dinosaur is amazing. He's a superhero. Ah! Big dinosaur, I'll take care of you. My family's rich and my house is huge. Come live with me, a young wealthy woman shouted, pressing herself against the window. I'm obsessed with Big Bro. I'm crazy for Big Bro. I'd smash my head against the wall for Big Bro. This is great, we're saved again. Dinosaur brother is way too reliable. I want to raise a big dinosaur too. The white-haired girl murmured, her bright eyes sparkling as she stared at Humungosaur. After setting the bus down, the first thing Humungosaur did was reach into his mouth and carefully pull out the woman in black stockings. She was completely soaked, her body covered in his saliva. 2. Humongousaur spat several times in a row. The woman was both embarrassed and irritated, wishing she could crawl into a hole and disappear. She knew why the dinosaur was acting like this. But putting that aside, it really wasn't her fault either. Lucian, our fight isn't over yet. Diamond Head's voice rang out from behind. Humongousaur turned his head, his gaze sharpening. Roar! With a thunderous roar, wild mud burst out of the lake, white spray exploding behind him as he lunged viciously at Kevin from the rear. Caught completely off guard, Diamond Head was slammed straight to the ground. When enemies met, their hatred burned even hotter. The two quickly tangled together again, their clash shaking the surroundings. You all need to leave. This place is too dangerous. Humongousaur waved his hand, signaling the passengers to go. With that, he turned and headed toward the fight. The woman in black stockings hesitated for a moment, but seeing the big dinosaur about to leave, she gathered her courage and shouted after him. Big dinosaur, thank you for saving me. And I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. Humongousaur didn't turn around. He simply waved his hand, signaling that it was fine. That cold, resolute back sent the female passengers into full fangirl mode. Screams rang out as they refused to leave, pulling out their phones to start taking pictures. They then racked their brains for captions, posting to their feeds with selfies attached. The white-haired girl, for example, first posted a photo of Humongousaur, then a selfie of herself. After that, she leaned against the bus window, flashed a peace sign, and snapped a photo with Humongousaur in the background. 3 photos in total, posted with the caption. Another day as a damsel, number, saved by a big dinosaur. The woman in black stockings and the other female passengers posted as well. The photos were similar, only the captions differed slightly. Girls, when you meet such a mighty big dinosaur, you just fall in love instantly. This is unreal, guys. The bus went out of control today and we almost died, but Dinosaur Brother saved us. Tongue out emoji. Such a cute dinosaur guy, totally in love. I really want to take him home and raise him. I'm seriously traumatized, fam. Just wanted to take the bus to Mr. Food Street for milk tea, and I ended up running into 2 monsters. Naturally, Humongousaur couldn't care less about any of that. He strode forward on his thick legs, tail swaying as he headed toward Wild Mutt and Diamond Head. By the lake shore, a crowd of bystanders had already gathered. Though fear flickered in their eyes, overwhelming curiosity kept them at a distance, unwilling to leave as they excitedly watched the monsters clash. Before long, the rust bucket came roaring in with a thunderous engine noise. It slammed on the brakes, pulled off a flashy drift, and finally screeched to a stop by the roadside. Grandpa Max and Gwen jumped out. Spotting the battle by the lake, they hurried over at once. Roar! Wild Mutt was soaked from head to toe, lake water dripping off his body, but it didn't slow him down in the slightest. If anything, it only stirred his feral instincts. He leapt forward, slashing with his claws and shattering the incoming crystal spikes. Then he raised both arms high and brought them crashing down. Diamond Head let out a cold snort. Ben Tennyson, you think that's enough to deal with me? As he spoke, he thrust out one hand, which transformed along the way into a crystal meteor hammer. Bang! Wild Mutt, still midair, had no chance to dodge. He was struck head-on and sent flying backward like a kite with its string snapped, hurtling away at high speed. Ha 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 ha! That was pathetic. Diamond Head laughed smugly, planting his hands on his hips. Suddenly, his body stiffened. A massive shadow swallowed him whole, as if something enormous had appeared right behind him. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Up to 50 chapters ahead for now. Patreon.com/pinksnake. Chapter 155, Chapter 155, The Plumbers. Diamond Head turned around, his eyes widening in shock. Humongousaur raised a palm as large as a fan, blotting out the sky as it came crashing down toward him. Diamond Head didn't hesitate. He lifted both hands and condensed a crystal shield above himself, like a green umbrella of protection. Boom! With overwhelming force, Humongousaur smashed straight through the shield. It shattered into countless crystal fragments that rained down everywhere. Ah! Diamond Head cried out as he was sent flying backward, only for his ankle to be grabbed midair by Humongousaur. So you're the so-called war god? A grin tugged at Humongousaur's mouth. Gripping Diamond Head's right leg, he swung him back and forth, slamming him into the ground again and again with thunderous crashes. Not far away, Gwen's eyes lit up. So cool. Cuz is amazing. Kevin doesn't stand a chance against him at all. Grandpa Max chuckled. Of course. Otherwise, how do you think he picked up so many fangirls? As he spoke, he glanced toward the surrounding crowd. Plenty of women were standing by the guardrails, faces flushed with excitement. Watching Humongousaur absolutely dominate Diamond Head, they cheered wildly, phones raised high to capture the thrilling scene. Gwen let out a small huff and crossed her arms, clearly a little annoyed. On the battlefield, Diamond Head was being beaten back step by the gigantic Humongousaur. Cracks had already spread across his body, putting him on the verge of falling apart. Kevin hadn't had the Omnitrix's power for very long. His control over the 10 alien forms was nowhere near Lucian's, not even comparable to Ben's. The only reason he'd been able to suppress Ben was thanks to his ability to transform freely. But against the sheer might of Humongousaur, that advantage meant far less. I'll kill you! Diamond Head's fractured body shifted rapidly, transforming in an instant into Heat Blast. Let me treat you to some grilled dinosaur meat, loser! Heat Blast raised his palm, firing off several blazing fireballs. Waves of heat rolled forward as they slammed toward Humongousaur. Humongousaur answered with a single punch, instantly blasting the attack apart. Aside from some scorched skin on his hand, he wasn't hurt at all. Damn it! Heat Blast roared, flames erupting violently across his body. Fire surged around his fist, wrapping it in blazing energy. His form blurred into a red afterimage as he closed the distance in an instant. Try this! Heat Blast hurled a fierce, flame-covered punch, its momentum terrifying. Humongousaur didn't flinch. Compared to his massive frame, Heat Blast looked no more threatening than a fire-spitting bug. Besides, Heat Blast was a caster. Trying to brawl up close with a tank like him was pure stupidity. Roar! Humongousaur bellowed, clenching his mountain-sized fist and charging forward to meet the blow. Boom! One large fist and one small fist collided violently, unleashing a brutal shockwave that surged outward in all directions. Clothes fluttered wildly among the spectators, drawing startled screams. Humongousaur's gaze remained calm as he took the fire punch head-on. Still, Heat Blast's temperature was extreme, and even he felt the strain. Flames clung to his skin like greedy snakes, sizzling loudly and releasing thin wisps of white smoke. Well? Feels good, doesn't it? Heat Blast sneered with a sinister grin. Humongousaur shook his body and knocked Heat Blast back in a single motion. Laughing loudly as he was sent flying, Kevin transformed again midair, this time into Stink Fly. Free lunch coming right up. As he spoke, thick green slime shot from Stink Fly's eyes, the stench so foul it felt like it could corrode the air itself. Facing a flying alien, Humongousaur knew he had no advantage. He immediately slapped the Omnitrix on his chest. Thud! A deep green flash erupted, and Humongousaur instantly transformed into Buzzshock. Black and green, with egg-shaped eyes flickering with blue electrical currents, symbols of plus and minus marked his back like a living battery. Buzzshock grinned, raising his glossy black palm and aiming it at Stink Fly in the distance. What? Stinkfly felt his heart sink. Zzzt. Green lightning burst from Buzzshock's palm, ripping through the air like a living serpent as it shot toward its target. Stinkfly hurriedly fired back a stream of slime, colliding with the lightning midair and kicking up a thick cloud of dust. Ha ha ha, so this is all you've got? Stinkfly laughed loudly. Suddenly, a small black finger tapped him on the back. Stinkfly's body jolted as if struck by lightning. Panic flashed through him as he twisted around to look behind him. Why you? When did you? His eyes widened, nearly bulging out of their sockets. At some point, Buzzshock was already standing on Stinkfly's back, electric arcs dancing across his body as he wore a smug grin. Get off me, you freak! Stinkfly shouted. He thrashed violently, trying to shake Buzzshock loose. Ha 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 ha! Buzzshock crouched down and pressed both hands against Stinkfly's body. Blinding arcs of electricity burst out in an instant. Ah! Stinkfly's eyes rolled back as he was electrocuted, his whole body convulsing as he nearly blacked out. With his muscles spasming uncontrollably, he could no longer maintain flight and began to fall. Just before hitting the ground, Buzzshock disengaged and turned into a streak of blue electricity, flashing through the air to avoid the rebound impact. Boom! Stinkfly crashed into the ground like a bug that had dropped dead on the spot, blasting up dirt and dust. Roar! At the same time, Wild Mutt crawled out of the water and charged forward at full speed. But just as he was about to bite down on Stinkfly, a crimson laser shot in from the side, aimed straight at Wild Mutt's face. Wild Mutt sensed the danger instantly, but his body couldn't react fast enough and he was still rushing forward. Move, Ben! Gwen shouted. At the critical moment, a streak of green lightning blasted in at extreme speed, instantly cancelling out the crimson laser. The beam evaporated into scorching vapor and dispersed in midair. Wild Mutt turned his head and let out a low growl when he saw who it was. The shooter was a blond man with a buzz cut, holding a high-tech weapon as he stood beside a black Hummer. The Special Alien Containment Team. Lieutenant Steele. Gwen had seen him on the news before. This Special Forces officer had once fought Kevin in his forearms form at the Sumo Slammers event. Back then, leading a team of elite operatives, he had nearly captured both Swamp Fire and Forearms. On my command, fire! Lieutenant Steele barked, swinging his arm as he ordered the soldiers behind him to open fire. Wild Mutt's fur stood on end as he dodged left and right, leaping through the incoming barrage. Buzzshock turned into a streak of electricity, easily slipping past the incoming laser fire. He raised his hand, preparing to knock the entire group unconscious. Suddenly, Stinkfly lying on the ground snapped his eyes open, his body rapidly shifting. In the blink of an eye, Kevin transformed into XLR8. Ha! See you around! With a sharp whoosh, Kevin vanished like a raging gust of wind, leaving nothing behind. Roar! Faced with the continuous laser fire, Wild Mutt finally couldn't hold on. He turned and dove back into the lake with a loud splash. Seeing Kevin escape, Buzzshock lost any desire to keep fighting. He immediately turned into a streak of green electricity and shot off in XLR8's direction. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Up to 50 chapters ahead for now. Patreon.com/pinksnake. Chapter 156, Chapter 156, The San Francisco Bridge. That night, the sky was scattered with stars. The rust bucket was brightly lit, parked in a quiet suburban area where almost no one passed by. Insects chirped and frogs croaked in the distance as a cool night breeze swept through, stirring the grass and trees into a soft rustling. The earthy scent of soil drifted through the air, spreading in all directions. Lucian had already returned to the rust bucket. He sat in front of the computer, browsing news reports and tracking Kevin's whereabouts. Not long ago, he had transformed into Buzzshock, evaded Lieutenant Steele's pursuit, and charged straight at Kevin, who had turned into XLR8, trying to capture him. But halfway through, the Omnitrix ran out of power. With no other choice, Lucian had to give up and return to the rust bucket. Continuing the chase would only have put him in extreme danger. Still, the battle hadn't been entirely pointless. Humongousaur, while ensuring the passengers' safety, had successfully rescued the hijacked bus. The system mission was completed, increasing its defense by 10%. As for Ben, he had already made it back to the rust bucket. He was holding a game controller, fully absorbed in Sumo Slammers 2.1. Earlier, Wild Mutt had jumped into a lake to dodge the laser fire from the Special Alien Containment Team and climbed ashore on the opposite side. But the moment he got out, his watch lost power. Soaked from head to toe, Ben had no choice but to head back. At that moment, Gwen walked over with a cup of milk and carefully handed it to Lucian. "Cuz, you saved so many people today. You must be really tired. Drink this while it's still warm." The milk had just been taken out of the fridge and heated in the microwave before Gwen felt at ease enough to give it to him. Lucian paused briefly. Okay. Thanks, Gwen." Since she was his cousin, he didn't stand on ceremony. He accepted the warm cup and took a small sip. "Is it good?" Gwen asked, her eyes full of expectation, though she was quietly nervous that it might not suit his taste. "Yeah, it's good." Lucian nodded, his gaze never leaving the screen. He needed to catch Kevin as soon as possible. Letting such a powerful enemy roam free made him deeply uneasy. An emotionally unstable Kevin was especially dangerous. After absorbing the Omnitrix's power, he had become ferocious and brutal, like a maddened beast stripped of all humanity. "Cuz, are you still worried about Kevin?" Gwen asked softly, glancing at the footage of Kevin wreaking havoc on the screen. "Yeah. Knowing Kevin, he won't let this go. He'll definitely come back for me and Ben," Lucian said grimly. In a head-on fight, he wasn't afraid of Kevin. But Kevin could freely switch between aliens and had countless ways to launch sneak attacks. Guarding against him was incredibly difficult. "That kid, sigh." Grandpa Max shook his head and said nothing more. "Don't worry, Grandpa." Ben put down the controller and grinned confidently. "If Kevin shows up again, I'll beat him up for sure. I'll smash him flat." "As long as you're both safe," Grandpa Max said with a strained smile. "Relax, Grandpa," Gwen laughed. "With my cuz around, there's no way he'll lose to Kevin. He'll protect all of us." Breaking news alert! The Rust Bucket's screen suddenly switched to another broadcast. On the screen, Diamond had stood atop the red San Francisco Bridge, smashing cables and destroying passing cars at will. Pedestrians fled in panic, scrambling off the bridge, terrified that even a moment's delay would get them killed. 10 minutes ago, a monster appeared on the San Francisco Bridge, causing massive destruction. Dozens of cables were severed, numerous vehicles crushed, and civilian casualties are severe. Authorities have now intervened and are preparing to eliminate the monster to restore peace for the public. A helicopter hovered above the bridge. Beneath it, Lieutenant Steele clung to the metal frame with one hand, his expression cold and resolute. He was clearly ready to get serious. "Lieutenant Steele." Ben froze, then shook his head. "He's no match for Kevin. We've got to go help." "Let's go," Grandpa Max said with a nod. He knew those weapons alone wouldn't be enough to stop Kevin. "This time, we're taking Kevin down for good." A cold glint flashed in Lucian's eyes. San Francisco Bridge. The long bridge stretched across the dark ocean, starlight reflecting faintly on the water below. Countless cables connected the structure, though many had already been destroyed, snapping apart and collapsing onto clusters of crushed cars. Diamond Head stood tall and imposing atop the red bridge tower. Opposite him was Lieutenant Steele, who had just jumped down from the helicopter. Below them, numerous Special Forces soldiers aimed their advanced weapons at Diamond Head, fingers poised on the trigger. "Surrender now, Alien monster! You're not escaping today. Lieutenant Steel, his blonde crew cut gleaming under the lights, locked a cold stare onto Diamond Head. Diamond Head burst into laughter. You again, you persistent little pest. You've chased me through so many cities and still couldn't catch me. That's just pathetic. This time, I won't let you get away. Lieutenant Steel drew his pistol, aimed, and fired several shots in quick succession. Blazing lasers slammed into Diamond Head like a torrential downpour, but they only produced faint sparks, completely failing to cause any damage. Seeing this, the soldiers below raised their laser rifles and unleashed an even heavier barrage. With a casual wave of his hand, Diamond Head formed a massive crystal wall along the side of the bridge tower, blocking all incoming fire. That kind of attack won't work on me. As he spoke, Diamond Head slowly advanced toward Lieutenant Steel. Unshaken, Lieutenant Steel pulled the dagger from his belt and charged forward, engaging Diamond Head in close combat. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on patreon.com/pinksnake, 50 chapters ahead. You can also follow as a free member to read few advanced chapters. Chapter 157, Chapter 157, Ice Spear Storm. The rust bucket sped forward, reaching the San Francisco Bridge in just a few minutes. Everyone jumped out of the vehicle one after another, but all they could see atop the bridge tower was a massive crystal wall riddled with bullet marks. There was no need to guess. Diamond Head was inside. Unauthorized personnel are not allowed to approach, a soldier barked, stepping in front of them. This hero is just trying to help. Ben was burning with impatience and about to argue when Grandpa Max grabbed him and pulled him back. They returned to the rust bucket, reversed a short distance, and stopped again. Inside the vehicle, Ben clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. No way! I have to get up to the bridge tower now. I'm not letting Kevin keep running wild. Lucian nodded and turned to Grandpa Max. Grandpa, it's too dangerous up ahead. You and Gwen stay here. Ben and I will handle Kevin. No, I'm coming too. Gwen immediately protested. She had powers. She could help. Gwen, don't mess around. Listen to your cousin, Grandpa Max said sternly. His expression was heavy. A battle on this level was no joke. One wrong move could cost a life. Fine. But you'd better be careful. Gwen lowered her head, completely deflated. To avoid exposing their identities, Lucian and Ben transformed directly inside the rust bucket. Oh man, I was gonna turn into 4 arms. Ghost Freak's voice came out hoarse and raspy. Purple pupils glowed as a chilling aura spread outward. He had clearly selected 4 arms, but for some reason, he transformed straight into Ghost Freak instead. This Ghost Freak was Ben. Lucian's Ghost Freak had already escaped from the watch, leaving his transformation interface completely blank and unusable. Beside Ghost Freak stood a slender figure. Clad in a blue robe, its eyes gleamed brightly. With every breath, wisps of icy mist spilled out. The instant it appeared, the surrounding temperature dropped several degrees. Big chill. Cool. It's this alien hero again. Gwen shouted excitedly, staring at Big Chill. Let's go, Ben, Big Chill said calmly. Big Chill phased into a blue afterimage, passing straight through the car door. Cold energy rolled off his body as he flew directly toward the crystal wall. He could switch aliens twice now, but the time limit was still there. He had to finish this fast. Got it, Ghost Freak replied, vanishing into nothingness. High atop the bridge tower, Lieutenant Steel had been beaten until his face was swollen and bruised. He tried to stand several times, only to be slammed back down every time. I thought you were something impressive, Diamond Head sneered. Turns out this is all you've got. He stepped on Lieutenant Steele's back and ground his foot down hard, deliberately humiliating him. If he weren't so bored and looking for entertainment, he would have cut him down long ago. Damn it! Lieutenant Steel swung his dagger with all his strength, slashing at Diamond Head's leg. Sparks flew. That was all. Against ordinary people, Diamond Head was a walking crystal juggernaut. Completely indestructible, and devastatingly lethal. Rat-a-tat-tat. Outside the crystal wall, laser fire continued to roar. The entire bridge tower trembled faintly. Crimson laser beams slammed into the crystal wall non-stop, carving dense cracks into it. It looked like it was about to shatter. It's working. Increase firepower, a soldier below shouted in excitement. But the hope that had just ignited was instantly extinguished. On the red bridge tower, Diamond Head looked at the nearly shattered crystal wall and let out a cold laugh. Trying to save him? Not a chance. With a casual wave of his hand, the cracked crystal wall repaired itself, once again glowing with a tough, eerie green sheen. Lieutenant Steele's eyes dulled. He knew he was finished. He collapsed on the ground, no longer resisting, quietly waiting for death. "Tch boring," Diamond Head scoffed, raising his blade-shaped arm to strike. Suddenly, a piercing cold swept over him, instantly engulfing his body. Crack, crack. Diamond Head's expression changed drastically. He tried to break free, but it was already too late. His crystal body froze at a visible speed, locked in the middle of his attack. In the blink of an eye, he became a towering, translucent ice sculpture. A blue phantom then rose from below the bridge tower. "Why you?" Lieutenant Steele stared in shock. "Who are you?" "Calm down. We're not enemies," Big Chill said flatly. "Move aside first. Don't get caught in the fight." "All right." Lieutenant Steele hesitated, then nodded. He crawled to the corner of the bridge tower and turned his head, watching Big Chill closely. Big Chill raised his palm and aimed at Diamond Head. Cold air swirled around him, gradually condensing into countless ice spears. Crack, crack. The sound of ice shattering rang out. Diamond Head roared and flexed violently, shattering the ice encasing him and breaking free. "You again." Lucian Diamond Head started to curse, but swallowed the words halfway. Whoosh! 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 Bone-chilling ice spears launched like a storm of arrows, merging into a terrifying blue tempest. Carrying immense force, they slammed straight into Diamond Head. Explosions rang out one after another as Diamond Head was driven backward step by step. Sharp ice spears pierced his body, riddling him with holes and cracking his crystal form. Emerald crystal fragments scattered everywhere, piling up across the ground. "That alien is terrifying," Lieutenant Steele muttered, stunned. He had expected at best a stalemate. He never imagined Diamond Head would be overwhelmed so completely. In truth, Big Chill's strength also came from surprise. Combined with the system's enhancements, his control over cold had reached a new level, even allowing him to transform into plants and animals. Before long, the ice spear storm faded. Diamond Head stood unsteadily, his entire body covered in wounds. His arms and legs were filled with deep gashes and puncture holes. He shook violently, scattering the broken fragments from his body, then focused his will and rapidly regrew a fresh crystal. Big Chill flapped his wings, clenched his blue claws, and unleashed a terrifying burst of freezing power, punching straight toward Diamond Head. "Don't think I'm scared of you. No one can defeat me, Kevin Levin." Diamond Head turned both arms into razor-sharp spikes and crossed them, slashing viciously at the incoming Big Chill. Just as the spikes were about to pierce him, Big Chill's body blurred and phased into a blue humanoid silhouette, passing straight through the crystal blades. "What?" Diamond Head's eyes widened in shock. Only then did he remember this infuriating ability. Frost rapidly spread across the spikes Big Chill had passed through, freezing them solid. At this rate, Diamond Head would turn into an ice statue again. Gritting his teeth, Kevin raised his other arm and severed it instantly, letting it crash to the ground. He knew he couldn't beat Lucian head-on. His plan was to switch to other alien forms and wear him down with endless abilities. Suddenly, a chilling presence surged up from beneath his feet. Diamond Head's massive body stiffened. The sensation was far too familiar. He looked down. Two pale ghostly hands shot up through the red bridge tower and grabbed his legs. He, got you. Ghost Freak popped his head out, laughing hoarsely. Ghost Freak. Diamond Head froze, then spotted the Omnitrix. So it's you, Ben Tennyson. Seizing the opening, Big Chill took a deep breath and expelled a massive wave of freezing air that surged forward like a tidal wave. Diamond Head roared in fury as his body began to swell rapidly. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on patreon.com/pinksnake, 50 chapters ahead. You can also follow as a free member to read a few advanced chapters. Chapter 158, Chapter 158, Frostvine. Drink. Diamond Head's face twisted violently, kneaded and reshaped like soft dough. One moment Stink Fly, the next Ghost Freak, then Wild Mutt. In just a few breaths, Diamond Head surged to over 3 meters tall, transforming into the hulking 4 arms. Blood-red skin. 4 arms, 4 eyes. Muscles bulging everywhere, brimming with explosive strength. Get out of my way! 4 arms roared, ripping himself free from Ghost Freak's restraint. The freezing air rushed toward him. 4 arms thrust out a crimson arm and slammed forward, unleashing a violent shockwave. Boom! The icy chill shattered instantly under the terrifying blast, breaking into countless ice fragments that scattered through the air. They drifted down and clung to the red bridge pillars, icy water slowly trickling down. Oh, how annoying! Ghost Freak muttered before diving into the ground, vanishing without a trace. Seeing him retreat, 4 arms snorted and didn't bother chasing. Instead, he turned his gaze toward Big Chill. To Kevin, this one was the real threat. I can freely switch between other aliens. There's no way you can beat me. 4 arms smirked as he stared at Big Chill. You're very confident, Big Chill said with a light chuckle, hovering in midair. Today, both you and Ben Tennyson will die by my hand. The moment his words fell, 4 arms kicked off the ground. His powerful legs exploded with force, launching him forward like a cannonball. Big Chill flickered aside, narrowly avoiding the punch. At the same time, he exhaled freezing air, condensing an ice sword in his hand. With a fierce swing, he slashed straight toward 4 arms' neck. Idiot! That won't work on me. 4 arms laughed wildly, fully intent on tearing his opponent apart. He smashed the ice sword with a single punch. It shattered into a cloud of blue mist that swept past his body and slowly dissipated. Suddenly, a chilling presence struck from behind. At some point, Ghost Freak had slipped around to 4 arms' back. Pale, ghostly claws reached out, aiming to seize him. 4 arms didn't even turn his head. He tensed his arm muscles and drove a brutal elbow backward. Bang! Ghost Freak was too slow to dodge. The hit sent him flying like a kite with its string cut, hurtling backward. 4 arms spun around, strode forward, and grabbed Ghost Freak by the tail. Ben Tennyson, let's see where you run this time. 4 arms grinned savagely. He locked his grip on the tail, planted his feet, and began spinning in place like a top. Terrifying force whipped up screaming whines. In the blink of an eye, 4 arms and Ghost Freak became a red and white tornado. I'm gonna puke. Ghost Freak's head spun wildly. Being toyed with like this by Kevin, he couldn't even enter his intangible state. Seeing this, Big Chill immediately spewed out a blast of freezing air toward the tornado. This attack might hurt Ben, but Big Chill had no time to hesitate. Letting Ben take this kind of beating was worse than taking the risk. When the timing felt right, 4 arms released Ghost Freak's tail mid-spin. Instantly, Ghost Freak shot out like a rocket, slamming hard into the iron wall of the bridge tower. A thunderous crash echoed in all directions. After such a brutal impact, Ghost Freak quickly lost consciousness and collapsed on the ground, unable to move. Forearms had just stopped spinning when he sensed freezing air rushing in from the side. He quickly retreated 2 steps, barely avoiding Big Chill's attack. "You've got a death wish." Forearms leapt up with astonishing power, lunging toward Big Chill in midair. Unexpectedly, Big Chill instantly turned intangible, passing straight through Forearm's body as solid ice rapidly formed. Crack! Crack! Clear, crystalline ice radiating extreme cold spread outward from Forearm's chest. "This is bad." Forearms clenched his fists and hurriedly changed forms. He had to switch to another alien before being completely frozen. His blood-red skin cracked inch by inch, like shattered magma, as scorching heat poured out. His massive body rapidly shrank, becoming leaner and thinner. Flames leapt atop his head like glowing lanterns. In just a few seconds, Forearms transformed into Heat Blast. The ice on his chest melted rapidly under Heat Blast's terrifying temperature, evaporating with sharp sizzling sounds. Pathetic. Fire beats ice. There's no way your alien can beat me. Heat Blast laughed loudly, raising his palm and firing a blast of flames at Big Chill. The raging fire surged forward like a roaring fire dragon, baring its fangs as it lunged at Big Chill with overwhelming force, trying to swallow him whole. Big Chill remained calm. He phased through the fire dragon and spread his blue wings, releasing an intense cold. Under his control, the freezing air condensed into countless vines that whipped wildly through the air, each one lined with sharp barbs. "Go," Big Chill said softly. As his voice fell, the ice vines seemed to come alive, surging toward Heat Blast in a frenzy. The overwhelming cold nearly froze the entire bridge tower solid. Even Lieutenant Steele, standing some distance away, felt the bone-piercing chill and couldn't help sneezing. "What kind of monster is this? It's way too strong," Lieutenant Steele muttered, his face bruised and swollen. Crash! Countless blue vines surged forward, weaving together into a massive net that blotted out the sky and instantly enveloped Heat Blast. Sensing danger, Heat Blast immediately raised both hands and unleashed flames with all his strength. 2 fire dragons burst from his palms, spiraling together into a terrifying pillar of blazing heat. The raging flames nearly scorched the surrounding space itself. Boom! The searing fire pillar slammed into the vines like a red-hot column from the heavens, producing a deafening explosion. But the icy vines seemed alive. They abruptly split to both sides, narrowly dodging the attack, and surged toward Heat Blast again. Heat Blast tried to flee, but it was already too late. Countless barbed vines wrapped tightly around him, freezing cold seeping into his body. There were simply too many. Heat Blast couldn't melt them all in such a short time. "You're cheating. This isn't fair. How can you use such a broken ability?" Heat Blast roared in fury, flames blazing in his eyes. "Don't ask. If you ask, I won't tell," Big Chill replied calmly. There was no way he would explain that this was the result of system enhancement. Watching Heat Blast trapped by the icy vines, Big Chill exhaled freezing air once more, beginning to gather a devastating attack. A saber-toothed tiger formed entirely from ice and snow quickly took shape. 2 long, razor-sharp fangs jutted from its jaws, gleaming like cold daggers. "Go! Eat him," Big Chill said flatly. Roar! The ice saber-toothed tiger roared and charged forward, trampling through a blue curtain of ice and snow as it rushed straight toward Heat Blast. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on patreon.com/pinksnake, 50 chapters ahead. You can also follow as a free member to read a few advanced chapters. Chapter 159, Chapter 159, Sudden Mutation. The ferocious saber-toothed tiger, its sharp fangs growing larger in Heat Blast's eyes, lunged forward. He gritted his teeth, summoning his inner energy, trying to transform into another alien to break free from the icy vine's grip. But the ice snow saber-tooth was quicker, pouncing in the blink of an eye. Roar! With a deadly snap, its razor-sharp teeth sank into Heat Blast's body. Ah! The transforming Heat Blast felt excruciating pain as the saber-tooth clamped down on his neck, like an iron vice. It was agony beyond measure. The saber-toothed tiger tightened its grip, its teeth digging deeper into Heat Blast's body, intent on tearing him apart. In extreme pain, Heat Blast hastened his transformation, becoming Wild Mutt in just a second. Eyeless and noseless, his mouth filled with fangs, his orange fur bristled like inverted steel needles, tough and menacing. Roar! Wild Mutt bellowed, smashing a massive palm into the ice snow saber-tooth. Boom! The brute force shattered the saber-tooth into crystalline ice shards, scattering them across the bridge tower. But it wasn't over. The enraged Wild Mutt leaped around, smashing every icy vine in his path, as if only this could release his fury. Seeing this, Lieutenant Steele's heart sank. At this rate, the blue moth across from them stood no chance against this beast. Its ability to transform into countless aliens made it far too dangerous. Thinking back to how Big Chill had saved him, Lieutenant Steele suspected this alien had no malice, being on the side of justice. Meanwhile, the shape-shifting monster was undoubtedly an evil fiend. Lieutenant Steele silently prayed that the blue moth could defeat the terrifying creature. Watching Wild Mutt from above, Big Chill remained calm, his expression as still as a deep well. He retracted his wings and landed on the ground, resembling a mysterious figure cloaked in blue, staring directly at the Wild Mutt below. After Wild Mutt had destroyed the vines, he turned and let out a thunderous roar at Big Chill, then propelled himself forward with powerful leaps. Unfazed, Big Chill tapped the Omnitrix on his chest. Thud! A ghostly green light flashed, and Big Chill vanished. In his place stood Blitzwolfer. Blue fur, sharp fangs, glowing green eyes, and a body covered in lean, powerful muscles. Blitzwolfer! What? Lieutenant Steele gasped, wide-eyed. He hadn't expected the enemy to be able to transform into yet another alien. But quickly, his surprise shifted into relief. This meant they had a better chance of defeating the monster. At that moment, the enraged Wild Mutt charged straight at Blitzwolfer. Suddenly, Blitzwolfer's mouth split into 4 petal-like sections, unleashing a burst of green sonic waves that enveloped Wild Mutt mid-air. The ferocious creature, once so powerful, clutched its head in agony, collapsing to the ground and thrashing desperately. The sensation was like hearing nails scraping a chalkboard, chilling and unbearable. But for Wild Mutt, whose hearing was incredibly sensitive, the feeling was amplified dozens of times, pushing him to the brink of collapse. Blitzwolfer continued to release sonic waves, keeping his jaws wide open. When Kevin had transformed into Wild Mutt, he had planned to become Blitzwolfer all along. As a Vulpimancer, Wild Mutt possessed extraordinary hearing, able to detect dangers from miles away. But his weakness was clear: when faced with sonic attacks, he became completely passive, unable to fight back. Under Blitzwolfer's unrelenting sonic assault, Wild Mutt's form rapidly shrank, and within moments, Kevin had returned to his human form. Just then, Ghost Freak flew in, his violet eyes narrowing as he scanned the disheveled Kevin. "Ha, so this is the mighty Kevin? You're pathetic." Ghost Freak sneered, delighting in the chance to ridicule his old foe. Kevin had tarnished the reputation of aliens, and Ghost Freak relished the opportunity to knock him down a peg. Kevin, struggling to his feet with messy hair, glared at Ghost Freak. "Ben Tennyson. You only think you can win because Lucian backs you. Without him, you'd never be a match for me. And what? If you're so tough, go find yourself a cousin." Ghost Freak laughed. Blitzwolfer's expression remained cold as he approached. He eyed Kevin's ragged state and considered whether to end him now, ensuring he couldn't pose any future threat. Kevin may be an antagonist now, but in the original story, he eventually joined Ben's team, redeemed himself, and even became an expert in alien technology, helping Ben on several occasions. In Ultimate Alien, Kevin had even saved the universe once. Lucian recalled the scene on the Forge of Creation, when the ambitious Aggregar defeated Ben and planned to absorb the power of a celestial sapien to conquer the universe. Had Kevin not absorbed the Omnitrix's energy at a critical moment, transforming into Kevin 11, Aggregar might have succeeded, ruling the universe without resistance. Lucian's thoughts grew distant. He wondered if eliminating Kevin now would alter the course of the story or worse, destroy the universe itself. Confronted by Ghost Freak's relentless taunting, Kevin's rage grew so intense that he almost ground his teeth to dust. Ben Tennyson, if you've got the guts, fight me one-on-one. I'm not afraid of you. You're not worthy, Ghost Freak scoffed, dismissing Kevin entirely. After all, Kevin had lost the ability to transform into aliens. Ghost Freak wouldn't stoop to attacking someone so defenseless, it would offer no satisfaction. "Cuz, let's go." Ghost Freak, emanating a chilling aura, turned and floated away. Blitzwolfer stayed silent for a moment, contemplating his next move. Finally, he decided that Kevin had to be dealt with. He was confident that, with him around, Aggregar wouldn't run rampant. His power might not be enough now, but he would improve. And when the time came, defeating Aggregar wouldn't be impossible. As he watched Ghost Freak's figure recede, Kevin's fury and humiliation surged like a raging storm. "Ben Tennyson, stop right there." Kevin pushed himself up, his form rapidly expanding, tearing his tattered clothes apart. Blitzwolfer roared, unleashing a devastating sonic blast that slammed into Kevin. Kevin staggered back 2 steps, but the damage was minimal. Ghost Freak froze, slowly turning back with wide eyes. Kevin's body had undergone a shocking transformation. His body was now as massive as 4 arms, with 4 arms. His left upper limb was Heat Blast's fiery arm, the right one was Diamond Head's crystalline arm. Below, he had Wild Mutt's claws. Wings of Stinkfly sprouted from his back, cracks of Ghost Freak ran across his chest. His shoulders bore Upgrade's skin, and Ripyaw's hanging chandelier adorned his head. XLR8's tail swished behind him. He had 3 eyes, 2 from 4 arms, 1 from grey matter. Kevin 11. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Patreon.com/pinksnake, 50 chapters ahead. You can also follow as a free member to read a few advanced chapters. Chapter 160, Chapter 160, Can't Turn Back. Staring at his mutated arm, Kevin's face twisted with panic, leaving him completely helpless. The crystal arm of Diamond Head, the fiery palm of Heat Blast, both monstrously thick, stronger than 4 arms, yet grotesquely deformed. They resembled failed lab experiments, neither fully human nor ghost-like. Kevin concentrated, trying desperately to revert. His mind twisted in agony, as if enduring hellish torture. Yet in just 2 seconds, he reverted back to his Kevin 11 form. "No. I refuse to become a monster. I need to change back." Reluctance surged within him as he clenched his fists, desperately trying to regain his original form. But no matter how hard he tried, every effort proved futile. He couldn't change back. "Arg!" Kevin roared in frustration, glaring at the ghostly figure nearby. "Ben Tennyson, I can't change back. It's all your fault I turned into this freak." The ghostly figure snapped out of its shock and retorted, "You chose to absorb the Omnitrix's energy yourself. Blame yourself, don't try to pin this on me. I don't care. You're the one who turned me into this. You'll pay for it." Kevin's eyes nearly blazed with fury. He then turned his glare to Blitzwolfer. "And you, Lucian. If it weren't for you, I would have taken care of that idiot long ago. How else would I end up like this?" Blitzwolfer clenched his claws. "What goes around comes around. If you hadn't abused your transformation powers to wreak havoc everywhere, you wouldn't have ended up like this." Consumed by hatred, Kevin no longer cared about reason. With a furious roar, he lunged forward, his powerful strides shaking the bridge tower violently, bringing it to the brink of collapse. Blitzwolfer leapt nimbly aside, dodging the attack and landing behind Kevin. Die, all of you! Kevin's momentum remained unstoppable as he charged like an out-of-control armored vehicle, crashing into Ghost Freak with brutal force. Oh, bother! Knowing defeat was inevitable, Ghost Freak instantly transformed into a phantom and disappeared into the darkness. Kevin's strike missed, and he grew even more frenzied and violent. A beastly roar echoed across the entire San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge, startling nearby owls into flight. Suddenly, he spotted Lieutenant Steele on the ground, staring up at him in terror. "Ha! One more who can't escape!" Kevin sneered, extending his terrifying clawed hand toward him. Lieutenant Steele, sensing imminent danger, immediately drew his pistol and fired his last remaining bullet. It slammed into Kevin's forehead. But the bullet barely phased Kevin. It didn't even hurt. It sparked briefly before falling to the ice-covered bridge tower with a metallic clink. "Die! You're partly to blame for me turning into this monstrosity." Kevin's arm transformed into a sharp spike, its edge gleaming as it plunged straight down toward Lieutenant Steele. Grimacing in pain, Lieutenant Steele rolled sideways with every ounce of strength, narrowly dodging the deadly crystal spike. Seeing his opponent escape, Kevin's fury flared. He yanked the crystal spike free, transforming it into a massive crystal flail. At the same time, he clenched his flaming fist and released a searing ball of fire. Using both hands, he leapt into the air, the sound of rushing wind filling the space as he crashed down toward Lieutenant Steele. Lieutenant Steele's heart sank. His eyes lost their light. He no longer had the strength to evade Kevin's attack. At the critical moment, a blue figure darted forward, scooping up Lieutenant Steele and evading Kevin 11's assault. Blitzwolfer, quick as a flash, rescued Lieutenant Steele and placed him safely in a corner. "It's you!" Lieutenant Steele stared in surprise at the towering Blitzwolfer before him. Before Blitzwolfer could answer, a thunderous explosion erupted from the bridge tower. Boom! Kevin's overwhelming strength, one hand wielding a crystal hammer, the other a fiery fist, shattered the bridge tower. Its entire structure crumbled at astonishing speed, scattering into pieces. In an instant, a sense of imbalance gripped everyone. The towering red bridge structure rapidly disintegrated. Hardened metal components scattered like fleeing ants, crumbling into oblivion. Kevin's strike had blasted a massive hole through the bridge tower. He tumbled through first, crashing onto the San Francisco bridge deck before being buried beneath tons of steel, his figure vanishing from sight. Whoosh! The howling wind roared in Blitzwolfer's ears, his fur whipping wildly as he plummeted through the air. This perilous situation might be fatal to others, but to Blitzwolfer, it was child's play. He leapt back and forth, using the surrounding red steel beams to dissipate the downward force. By the time Blitzwolfer hit the ground, the momentum had nearly vanished. He landed steadily, casually clearing away a rolling steel beam above him, standing alone amidst the wreckage. The red bridge tower had completely collapsed, reduced to a pile of useless debris that buried numerous cars and Kevin's figure. As for Lieutenant Steele, he had been rescued by Ghost Freak. With Ghost Freak's flight abilities, Lieutenant Steele's safety was no longer in question. Standing amidst the ruins, Blitzwolfer suddenly felt the ground tremble beneath his feet. Without hesitation, he leapt from the chaotic debris and landed back on the San Francisco bridge. Boom! The next moment, a colossal figure broke free from the wreckage. Countless shards of shattered metal and steel flew through the air, some crashing onto the bridge deck, others plunging into the abyss of the ocean below. Kevin 11, panting heavily, destroyed everything in his path as he strode toward Blitzwolfer. Not far away, the Special Alien Containment Team, under Lieutenant Steele's command, launched a barrage of attacks, all aimed directly at Kevin. "Everyone, fire!" Lieutenant Steele shouted, his gaze unwavering. The soldiers immediately obeyed, raising their weapons, targeting Kevin 11, and firing dazzling laser beams. Tick tick tick. A dense barrage of lasers, like a violent storm, hammered relentlessly against Kevin's body. A bunch of losers. Facing the onslaught of lasers, Kevin raised his palm and released sharp crystal spikes. He then lifted his other hand, unleashing searing flames that tore through the special alien containment team. In an instant, Lieutenant Steele's forces suffered severe casualties, some riddled with spikes, others reduced to charred remains. The battle was brutal. "Everyone, retreat immediately," Lieutenant Steele ordered, leading his men back. If this continued, they wouldn't just fail to kill this monster, they'd be wiped out. With that thought, Lieutenant Steele retreated his team to a safer distance, watching from afar. Now, his only hope was that Blitzwolfer and Ghost Freak could defeat the terrifying hybrid monster. Failure would bring disastrous consequences. After repelling the special forces, Kevin sneered coldly and began walking toward Ghost Freak and Blitzwolfer. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. patreon.com/pinksnake, 50 chapters ahead. You can also follow as a free member to read a few advanced chapters. Chapter 161, Chapter 161, A Familiar Presence. I feel stronger than ever before. Even if I've become a freak, it doesn't matter as long as I can get revenge on all of you. Kevin clenched his fists, his face twisted into a grotesque grimace, seemingly embracing his monstrous form. "Oh, come on. You look totally lame like this, okay?" Ghost Freak shrugged. Blitzwolfer nodded. Even though Kevin fused with 10 aliens, he only has 1/10 of each hero's power. He seems like he can do everything, but he's mastered nothing. If Kevin could truly harness the full power of all 10 aliens, Ben would have died at his hands long ago. In the original story, even Vilgax wouldn't stand a chance. Kevin 11, upon hearing this, seethed with rage. He pointed a finger at Blitzwolfer with malicious intent. "This is more than enough to deal with the two of you." No sooner had the words left his mouth than he opened wide, spewing a torrent of green slime. The foul-smelling substance surged toward his opponents. Blitzwolfer's jaw split into 4 sections, unleashing a powerful ultrasonic blast. The slime shattered mid-air instantly, dispersing into a fine green mist that drifted harmlessly through the air. Kevin planted his feet, shattering the ground beneath him as a furious shockwave erupted. He swung a terrifying punch, crashing toward Blitzwolfer. Blitzwolfer's eyes flashed. Seizing a nearby red steel column, he thrust it forward with all his might, transforming into a crimson afterimage as he slammed it down with brutal force. "Useless! No one can defeat me now!" Kevin roared with laughter, unleashing a fiery fist that shattered the surging steel pillar into countless charred fragments. They clattered to the ground, releasing wisps of white smoke. Far away, Gwen watched through the car window, her heart burning with anxiety. Kevin's turned into a monster now. My cousin and the others are in grave danger. Grandpa Max opened a drawer and retrieved a specially modified rifle brought from Mount Rushmore specifically to guard against another Vilgax attack. This current situation was well within its scope. If Lucian and the others truly can't hold out, I'll risk my old life to rescue them. Grandpa Max held the rifle, beginning to calibrate its functions. "Grandpa, let's go help them." Gwen's face was ashen as she pleaded. "Trust me, Gwen, I desperately want to help too." Grandpa Max paused before continuing, but rushing in recklessly could hinder them. "You saw Kevin's state. If he launches a ranged attack, Lucian would have to divert his focus to protect us. That's a major no-no in combat." "All right." Gwen glanced back, her eyes filled with worry as she watched the situation on the bridge. Boom! An earth-shattering battle erupted on the San Francisco Bridge. Numerous cars were piled up here, their drivers long since fled or guided away by the special alien containment team. It could be said that aside from Kevin 11, Blitzwolfer, and Ghost Freak, no one else remained on the bridge. Not even a fly dared approach, fearful of being caught in the crossfire. Kevin hoisted a truck, summoning immense strength to hurl it at Blitzwolfer. Blitzwolfer transformed into a streak of blue, soaring into the air to deftly evade the massive truck. He planted his foot firmly on the truck bed, propelling himself like an arrow released from a bow, charging rapidly toward Kevin. "Little pup, let me show you what real power looks like." Kevin clenched his fist, unleashing a searing heat that blazed with intense intensity. Wrapped in a torrential wave of scorching heat, he slammed straight toward his opponent. Suddenly, Blitzwolfer somersaulted several times in midair, dodging the blazing fist. He countered with a punch aimed squarely at Kevin's face. Kevin roared in fury, braced against Blitzwolfer's punch, extending his crystal arm to seize it. In the blink of an eye, a white figure struck from the side. Ghost Freak, its purple pupils gleaming with eerie coldness, charged before Kevin and ripped open its own chest. Instantly, countless terrifying tentacles shot out from its chest, black and white, wildly flailing like ghostly hands from the underworld, reaching to snatch the life of the living. Kevin's arm, which had been reaching for Blitzwolfer, froze abruptly. A stinging pain shot through his body, like being pierced by poisoned needles. He immediately abandoned his attack on Blitzwolfer and swung his palm back to strike Ghost Freak. Ghost Freak swiftly retreated, refusing to meet Kevin's blow head-on. Seizing Kevin's distraction, Blitzwolfer bared its razor-sharp fangs and sank them into Kevin's palm. Ah! The pain made Kevin yelp, releasing the wolf. The beast flickered backward like a whirlwind, maintaining a safe distance from Kevin 11. "You're asking for death!" Kevin roared with fury, his massive frame charging forward with savage force, making the bridge deck tremble violently. Ben sees an opening to grab his legs. "I'll handle the attack," Blitzwolfer's deep voice boomed as he assumed a combat stance. "Got it, no problem." Ghost Freak nodded, his form gradually fading into nothingness. Blitzwolfer let out a piercing howl, unleashing a flurry of kicks that sent shards of rock flying toward Kevin 11. "Ha ha ha! You think you're playing house with me?" The crazed Kevin 11 swung his crystal blade and flaming fist, obliterating every stone in its path as they exploded in the air before him. Seizing the moment Kevin's vision was blurred, Blitzwolfer accelerated with all his might. Using all four limbs, he unleashed his primal beast nature, transforming into a supreme predator as he launched a deadly pounce. Feeling the gust of wind ahead, Kevin roared deafeningly without fear. He planted his feet and prepared to meet the attack head-on. Suddenly, a pair of bloodied ghostly hands shot out from beneath the bridge, lightning fast, seizing Kevin's ankle. Caught off guard, Kevin stumbled to the ground. Ignoring the pain, he struggled to rise. But Blitzwolfer was faster. He had already surged above Kevin, clenching his blue iron fist into a falling meteor that slammed viciously into Kevin 11's skull. Boom! A thunderous explosion echoed as Kevin 11's head was driven deep into the bridge deck, sending spider-web-like cracks radiating outward. Even the thick-skinned Kevin 11 struggled to withstand the full force of Blitzwolfer's head strike. Dizzy and disoriented, he found himself unable to rise immediately. "This Blitzwolfer's strength surpasses my expectations." A fleeting look of surprise flashed across Lieutenant Steele's eyes nearby. "Captain, this is our chance to eliminate the alien monster." "Should we open fire now?" a subordinate suggested. At that moment, both Kevin 11 and Blitzwolfer and Ghost Freak stood exposed on the open ground, a perfect opportunity to strike. "No. Wait for my order before firing." Lieutenant Steele hesitated briefly, then shook his head. On the San Francisco Bridge, Blitzwolfer gazed down at Kevin 11 below, his sharp wolf claws gleaming coldly. "Cuz, are you really going to kill him?" Ghost Freak hesitated, reluctant. "If we don't kill him now, we'll face endless trouble later," Blitzwolfer declared, swinging his dagger-like claws straight for Kevin 11's throat. Suddenly, a chilling aura swept in from behind, familiar yet terrifying. Without hesitation, Blitzwolfer leapt into the air, propelling himself away from his original position. He then grabbed the stunned ghost freak and swiftly retreated to the edge of the bridge. Only after pulling away did Blitzwolfer turn to look back at his previous spot. The next instant, his heart lurched violently, and his eyes widened in shock. Beside Kevin 11, a terrifying specter floated, its upside-down skull starkly conspicuous. Ghost Freak. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Patreon.com/pinksnake, 50 chapters ahead. You can also follow as a free member to read a few advanced chapters. Chapter 162, Chapter 162, Z's Scare. A pure silver moon hung high in the pitch-black sky, its starlit glow scattering tendrils of light that reflected upon the vast ocean below. San Francisco Bridge lay in utter ruin, piled high with wrecked vehicles. The bridge deck was shattered beyond repair, bearing deep gashes and cracks. Large and small fragments of concrete littered the surface. Kevin 11 lay sprawled on the ground, a purple ghost freak hovering beside him. An inverted skull, its center embedded with a violet spectral eye, paired with a pair of white, sharp claws that glinted with a sinister coldness. Compared to when it had first escaped the watch, the ghost freak's skin had become more intact, no longer ragged and torn. Particularly its tail, now fully exposed black and white, matching the coloration of its tentacles. This is, the ghost freak after Omnitrix calibration. Blitzwolfer's gaze darkened. He hadn't expected the ghost freak to truly survive, let alone recover to its peak state. Ghost freak. No one was more shocked than Ben, his face frozen in horror. Weren't you killed by Kevin? How can you be here? Heh, I'm not that easy to kill. Ghost freak gave a sinister chuckle. And I don't go by Ghost Freak, that's just the filthy name you gave me. From now on, call me Z's Scare. Z's Scare. Ben, now transformed into Ghost Freak, murmured to himself. Far away on the bridge deck, Lieutenant Steele frowned deeply, the scar on his face twisting. Another alien monster has appeared. This was arguably the most challenging case he'd encountered since joining the Special Forces, utterly unprecedented. 4 aliens had emerged from the same location. Lieutenant Steele was even contemplating deploying nuclear weapons. In the shattered crater, Kevin braced himself with both hands and slowly rose to his feet. I thought you could handle those 2 punks yourself. Looks like I was overestimating you, Z Scare sneered, mocking the frustrated Kevin 11. Shut your mouth, freak. Kevin 11 lunged forward, trying to grab Z Scare by the throat. Z Scare dissolved into a phantom, slipping through Kevin's grasp. If you're so powerful, why don't you go kill Lucian and Ben Tennyson? Kevin roared furiously at Z Scare. Calm down, I'm just stating the facts. Z Scare waved dismissively, turning to face Blitzwolfer and Ghost Freak. All right, we've got more important business to attend to. Let's deal with those 2 brats first. Kevin snorted coldly, his anger subsiding as he tacitly agreed. Glaring at the menacing pair, Blitzwolfer clenched his claws and feigned disdain. Kevin, so you were just bragging about killing Ghost Freak? Loser's gonna be a loser putting on airs when you can't back it up. I say, you're no match for Z's Scare. What did you say? Kevin gritted his teeth in fury, like a volcano ready to erupt, spewing blazing rage. The ever-cunning Z Scare stepped in to restrain him. Don't get worked up. He's deliberately provoking you, trying to stir up conflict between us so he can reap the benefits. That's sly Z Scare. Blitzwolfer thought to himself, his expression unchanged. Ghost Freak seemed to read his cousin's mind and quickly chimed in, exactly. Maybe Kevin's become Z Scare's lapdog now, dancing to his tune. Ha 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 ha. Ben Tennyson, you listen to me. Kevin clenched his fists so tightly they cracked. Soon, you'll be kneeling before me, begging for mercy. Z Scare, however, remained unhurried, floating silently in midair, his form faintly visible. Mockery won't work on us, children. Zscaer spoke in a hollow tone, his violet pupils glaring at the two. I must clarify one thing, Kevin is not my subordinate. We are merely partners. He had no choice. If he didn't clarify things now, Kevin would lose control. And Kevin as a monster was more temperamental than ever. Partners. Blitzwolfer's eyes flashed. Exactly. Last time at New York Plaza, I possessed Kevin's body and fought your transformed Humongousaur. In the end, I transformed into XLR8 and escaped your pursuit. Ghost Freak paused before continuing. I was actually thinking of keeping control of that kid's body indefinitely. After all, who would willingly give up the ability to freely transform into 10 different alien bodies? Did your conscience suddenly kick in later, making you decide to spare Kevin? Ghost Freak scratched his head, unable to resist asking. Blitzwolfer shook his head. Based on his understanding of Zscaer, that was absolutely impossible. Wrong. Ghost Freak grinned grimly, revealing a mouth full of crooked, ugly teeth. Later, I discovered I couldn't fully control Kevin's body. Why? Ghost Freak asked curiously. Because this big shot here isn't some born freak, I'm a half-breed alien. Kevin piped up first, bursting into laughter. Otherwise, how do you think I got my superpowers? It was through Zscaer's words that he'd learned of his mixed-blood alien heritage. At first, Kevin was utterly shocked, but that shock soon turned to delight because now, he wasn't the freak everyone called him. A mixed-blood alien, and you still can't possess him? That's pretty lame, Ghost Freak muttered under his breath, glancing at Zscaer. Kid, watch your tone. Zscaer gritted his teeth, forcing himself to calm down. Kevin's a half-Osmosian. I can't control him. But you? I could take over your body in seconds. Osmosians could not only absorb matter but also release and replicate it to enhance themselves. Though Kevin was a half-breed, he was still half-alien. Zscaer found it difficult to fully control him. Osmosians. Blitzwolfer murmured silently, his mind flooded with memories. Indeed, in the original story, Kevin was an Osmosian hybrid, which is why he could absorb others' energy though only 1/10 of the target's power. Ghost Freak couldn't fully control Kevin precisely because half his bloodline was Osmosian. Thinking about it, it made sense. In the original story, Ghost Freak couldn't possess Ben's alien form, only weaker life forms like Earthlings. So you two colluded to take us on together, Blitzwolfer snorted coldly. Clever. But I never expected you to dodge my attack just now. I thought my timing was perfect, almost foolproof. Zscaer's tone was disappointed as he shook his head. Blitzwolfer's gaze remained calm, offering no reply. He certainly wouldn't reveal that his heightened senses and agility, combined with Ghost Freak's overwhelmingly dense ghostly energy, made detection nearly impossible to evade. Still, a chill ran down Blitzwolfer's spine. Though he'd dodged the ambush, a split-second delay could have left him gravely wounded by Zscaer. All right, Kevin. Let's move together and finish them off. Zscaer chuckled. By now, Kevin's anger had largely subsided. Ben Tennyson, come on. Let's have a proper fight. The hideous Kevin 11, his massive lower body surging forward, charged at his opponent with fierce momentum. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. patreon.com/pinksnake, 50 chapters ahead. You can also follow as a free member to read a few advanced chapters. Chapter 163, Chapter 163, Desperate Situation. Ding triggered alien hacker mission. Simultaneously defeat Kevin 11 and Zscaer. Successfully complete to unlock a random scrapped case hero. The system prompt echoed in Blitzwolfer's mind. Scrapped case? What on earth is that? Archived heroes refer to alien heroes developed but never featured in the original storyline. I see. Blitzwolfer nodded slightly. In that case, he'd deal with the immediate threats first. On the San Francisco Bridge, Kevin 11's face twisted into a savage grimace. He swiped aside the cars blocking his path with brutal force, charging toward Ghost Freak at breakneck speed, his momentum unstoppable. Ghost Freak's expression hardened as he shifted into phantom form, engaging the ferocious Kevin 11 in combat. With his ability to become ethereal and invisible, Kevin found it difficult to take Ben down in the short term. Z's scare, shrouded in dark aura, rolled his violet eyes and emitted a chilling, wicked laugh before drifting toward Blitzwolfer. "So you're a Loboan, hey?" Didn't get a good look earlier. Z's scare appeared and vanished, passing through all obstacles. "Hehe, I raised a Loboan back home too. But he hasn't come to Earth yet, so he won't get the chance to fight you. What a pity. Because you're about to die by my hand very soon." Z's scare's gaze was playful, as if appraising his prey, fixed on the tall, lean Blitzwolfer. The Loboan mentioned by Ghost Freak was naturally Blitzwolfer. Lucian knew they both belonged to species from the inner star system. Arrogant. Blitzwolfer showed no fear, baring his sharp fangs and unleashing a green ultrasonic blast. Z's scare's gaze sharpened as his form instantly dimmed, becoming translucent to evade the attack. The surging ultrasonic wave, trailing an eerie green glow, smashed through several cars in succession before finally dissipating into the air, its kinetic energy exhausted. "Loboan, you're far too green to challenge me." A hoarse voice suddenly echoed from behind Blitzwolfer. Almost simultaneously, Blitzwolfer extended his claws, slashing backward. Z's scare struck first, seizing Blitzwolfer's wrist with astonishing strength. He whipped him around several times before hurling him violently toward the nearby bridge tower. As Blitzwolfer flew backward, the whistling wind roared in his ears. He whipped his head around, unleashing a powerful ultrasonic blast. Using the ultrasonic wave's recoil force, he halted his backward flight, landing less than 2 meters from the bridge tower. Z's scare laughed wildly. "How about it? My strength has now returned to its peak. Even if you turn into that little battery, you still can't beat me." Blitzwolfer showed no panic, he had anticipated this situation long ago. As an ectonurite, Ghost Freak itself was formidable. Moreover, like Blitzwolfer, it hailed from the inner star system. Ghost Freak understood Blitzwolfer's habits and abilities intimately. Relying on Blitzwolfer to defeat Z's scare was no ordinary challenge. Yet Lucian remained unflustered, for he still possessed one remaining hero switch opportunity. Originally, he had 2 switches available, but transforming from Big Chill into Blitzwolfer had consumed one. Just as Blitzwolfer was about to strike the Omnitrix, a white figure suddenly darted in from the side. With his astonishing vision, Blitzwolfer instantly recognized it as Ghost Freak Ben, covered in wounds and tumbling backward. Blitzwolfer leapt like a raging storm, charging toward the falling Ghost Freak. He caught Ghost Freak in his arms, his paws scraping the bridge deck to sparks, absorbing the terrifying impact. "Ben, rest here. I'll handle them." Blitzwolfer cradled Ghost Freak and placed him beside the bridge tower. "Oh, damn!" Ghost Freak felt excruciating pain throughout his body. He tried several times to fly up, but his strength failed him, and he collapsed onto the ground. He wanted to help his cuz beat up that weirdo, but in his current state, he couldn't do anything. Ben felt utterly frustrated, yet helpless. But soon, that feeling vanished. After saving Ben Tennyson, Blitzwolfer turned to face Kevin 11 and Z's scare alone. "Ha ha ha ha, Ben Tennyson is utterly pathetic." Kevin 11 roared with laughter. "Your turn is coming soon, Lucian." Z's scare smirked, eyeing Blitzwolfer mockingly. "Cute Loboan, now you're the only one left. How do you plan to resist us?" At this moment, Blitzwolfer stood no chance against Kevin and Z's scare. Even a peak form Ghost Freak would be a tough opponent, let alone with Kevin 11 joining the fray. At the distant bridgehead, Lieutenant Steele's expression was grave as he commanded his elite soldiers to aim their weapons at the hybrid monsters and ghosts. On my command, be ready to fire at any moment. Having previously saved Lieutenant Steele, Blitzwolfer and Ghost Freak now faced peril. Seeing their alien allies in distress, Lieutenant Steele sprang into action, poised to provide fire support at a moment's notice. The desolate bridge howled with gales and shuddered with eerie mists, its decayed state starkly evident. Blitzwolfer stood poised, his gaze unwavering. Facing the malevolent Ghost Freak and the formidable Kevin 11, he showed no trace of panic or fear. Watching Blitzwolfer stand frozen in place, Kevin froze for a moment before erupting into maniacal laughter. Ha 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 ha! Lucian, have we scared you into stupidity? Don't blame me for being ruthless. If you kneel and beg for mercy, maybe I'll consider sparing your life. Let's spare him then. Z-Scare wagged his tail, greedily eyeing Blitzwolfer. If I could possess this body, I'd fully master the Omnitrix's power. Then I'd rule the entire universe. Humph! Blitzwolfer laughed bitterly, as if hearing the world's most absurd joke. Clearly, his opponent hadn't grasped his own predicament. Just then, Grandpa Max and Gwen ran up from behind, panting heavily. Seeing Kevin and Ghost Freak's predicament, they immediately prepared for battle. "'Cuz, we're here to help." Gwen raised her delicate hand, gathering wisps of moisture, ready to unleash water magic. "I warn you both, not a single hair on my grandson's head better be touched, or I'll send you straight to the afterlife." Grandpa Max shouldered a blue laser cannon, with a custom rifle strapped to his back, a sight that radiated the confidence of a veteran still in his prime. Blitzwolfer gave a slight nod, a wave of warmth rising in his heart. He wasn't fighting alone. Across from them, Kevin 11 had long since grown impatient. His eyes flashed with malice as his arm transformed into a crystal battleaxe, reflecting a cold, icy glow. "No one will stop me from seeking vengeance today." Kevin 11 shuffled forward, his bulky frame crushing the ground beneath him. Enveloped in an aura of hatred and savagery, he raised his emerald crystal battleaxe high and advanced toward the group. An evil Ghost Freak floated in the air, radiating bone-chilling cold. It ripped open the fissure in its chest, unleashing swirling black and white tentacles that lashed wildly toward them. Flanking them left and right, these two formidable boss-level figures radiated an overwhelming pressure that nearly crushed any will to resist. "Ready to meet your end?" Z-Scare sneered, baring his ugly teeth. Grandpa Max showed no fear, laser cannon slung over his shoulder, trigger finger poised. Though terrified, Gwen forced herself to suppress her fear and grit her teeth to channel magic. She couldn't let anything happen to her cousin, she had to help. Everyone stepped back. Blitzwolfer stepped forward, shielding Gwen and Grandpa with his back. "'Cuz." Gwen froze slightly. "Lucian, don't be reckless. Come back. Grandpa will help you defeat them." Grandpa Max shouted immediately. Blitzwolfer took a deep breath, extended his sharp wolf claws, and slapped them against the Omnitrix on his chest. Thud! A flash of eerie green light erupted as Blitzwolfer's form shifted at lightning speed. In an instant, his body shot upward, becoming slender and elongated. Two black antennae sprouted from his head, swaying in the wind. Feedback. Chapter 164, Chapter 164, Feedback. Feedback stood tall with dark, leathery skin that resembled the insulating casing around electrical wires, preventing its internal electricity from leaking. Two antennae protruded from its head, framing a single green eye that glowed faintly. Yellow plugs adorned its fingers, elbows, and shoulders, capable of absorbing enemy attacks and releasing them as powerful surges. As an electrified alien, Feedback's unique physiology allowed it to absorb nearly all energy-based attacks, channeling them to enhance itself, even the power of a universe destroyer. When the creature appeared, Z-Scare lost his composure. "A conductoid. You transformed into this alien form." He recalled that last time in New York Plaza, Lucian hadn't transformed into this alien. Otherwise, given his condition back then, he would have never escaped the pursuit. Z-Scare didn't know that Lucian had unlocked the feedback's genetic blueprint only after defeating the Great One. Kevin 11 sneered with disdain. Pfft! What kind of computer alien is that? Looks like a plug-in guy to me. Skinny arms and legs not even enough for me to fight with one hand. Z-Scare's eyes flickered strangely as he glanced at Kevin. He opened his mouth to say something, but in the end, he just sighed and remained silent. "'Cause." Watching the tall figure retreat, Gwen's expression turned wistful. "Grandpa, Gwen, you two stand back. I can handle them alone," Feedback said with a faint smile, his voice tinged with an electric hum, utterly peculiar. "Cool. What a great voice." Gwen's eyes lit up. Seeing Feedback before him, Grandpa Max's previously solemn expression instantly relaxed. He laughed heartily, "Ha ha, someone's in for a world of trouble. Gwen, let's go. We need to give your cousin space to act." With that, Grandpa Max retracted his laser cannon and pulled Gwen back toward the bridge. "But..." Gwen's face clouded with worry. The ghost freak and Kevin across the way were terrifying, she feared something might happen to him. "Don't worry. Lucian will handle them." Grandpa gave a mysterious smile. "All right then." The two hurriedly retreated behind the bridge tower, focusing intently on the battle unfolding before them. At that moment, Feedback stood alone, facing the formidable ghost freak and Kevin 11, yet its momentum showed no sign of faltering. "Things have come to this. We'll settle this with our fists," Z-Scare sneered. He knew the conductoid was formidable, but at this point, neither he nor Lucian had any room for retreat. It was a matter of life and death, no room for negotiation. "Bring it on," Feedback grinned, his fingers crackling with blue lightning. Watching the crackling electricity, Z-Scare felt uneasy. He turned to Kevin. "You go first. Draw his attention. I'll handle the ambush." "Why not you first?" Kevin countered. Well. I'm not suited for frontal combat. Your defense is higher than mine. Naturally, you should draw his attention." Z-Scare's eyes darted as he continued, "You handle the main assault, I handle the ambush. That way we leverage our respective strengths." "Right." Kevin shot Z-Scare a skeptical glance before snorting coldly and charging toward Feedback. No matter what, he would kill Ben Tennyson and Lucian today. Leading the charge was no sacrifice. Transformed into a Kevin 11, Kevin was savage and brutal, consumed only by endless hatred and rage. He raised his palm, unleashing a surging fire dragon that shot straight toward his opponent. Feedback extended its plug-like fingers, effortlessly absorbing the fire dragon. After circulating it within its body, it refined it into potent electricity. "Take that back." Feedback raised its hand, unleashing a dazzling bolt of lightning blue and white, crackling like a raging thunder dragon that roared toward its opponent. "What?" Kevin was utterly shocked, never expecting the other to absorb his energy. He scrambled to dodge sideways, but the bolt was faster, striking Kevin squarely in the abdomen. ZZZZT. The ferocious blue lightning, carrying immense energy, scorching and wild, sent Kevin flying dozens of meters away, crashing onto a large truck. "So powerful! Cuz is seriously awesome!" Gwen exclaimed, her eyes brimming with admiration. "Ha, Lucian always surprises me. Looks like this time is no exception," Grandpa Max chuckled, his mood lightening from its earlier gravity. Lieutenant Steele, watching from afar, was utterly horrified. He'd been ready to intervene, only to discover the Blitzwolfer had transformed into an even more formidable alien. "Captain, the team is ready. Should we open fire now?" a subordinate asked nearby. "No, not yet," Lieutenant Steele shook his head, his gaze fixed on the battlefield. After repelling Kevin, Ghost Freak suddenly appeared behind Feedback. He extended his ghastly bone claws, reaching for the creature's throat. Feedback sensed the threat and spun violently, seizing Z-Scare's wrist. Z-Scare's eyes flashed with fury as he prepared to unleash his full power to slam his opponent to the ground. But the Feedback acted first, his fingers erupting with a fierce burst of electricity. Ah! Z-Scare screamed in agony, experiencing pain unlike anything he'd ever felt. The sensation felt like millions of ants relentlessly gnawing at his flesh, unbearably agonizing. Get off! Gritting his teeth against the searing pain, Z-Scare's chest suddenly burst open. A dense swarm of black and white tentacles shot forth, dancing like demons, violently tearing at Feedback's arm. Disgusting old ghost! Feedback, stung by the pain, violently slammed Z-Scare to the ground. The Ghost Freak's tentacle attack was formidable. Even Feedback struggled to withstand it. After all, he wasn't a melee hero. While he could absorb energy attacks, his resistance to physical strikes was low. Breaking free from the restraints, Z-Scare immediately transformed into a phantom and vanished into the underside of the San Francisco Bridge. Boom! A deafening roar erupted as Kevin, his hair standing on end with rage, punched the truck away. Carrying a fierce momentum, he charged straight toward this direction. Feedback snorted coldly and met him head-on. He pointed both fingers at the ground. Sparks of electricity erupted from the plug, generating a powerful counterforce that propelled his entire body upward. He soared through the night sky. Seeing this, Kevin flapped the wings of his stink fly, propelling his heavy frame forward as he slowly closed in on Feedback. "You're flying too slow," Feedback grinned. The words barely left his mouth when the two antennae atop his head locked onto Kevin like gun barrels. Kevin's eyes widened in surprise at this unexpected move. He immediately spat out a stream of green slime, carrying a pungent stench, and launched it at the charging Feedback. Feedback shifted its body slightly, easily dodging the slime. It then concentrated a massive surge of electricity on its antennae, causing them to flash intensely. Instantly, the lightning bolt shot forth, striking the bulky Kevin like a bolt of lightning. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Patreon.com/pinksnake, 50 chapters ahead. Chapter 165, Chapter 165, Absorbing Energy. ZZZZT. A crackling hum of electricity filled the air as a surge of blue-white lightning struck Kevin 11, bursting into blinding flashes that flickered wildly, reflecting off the ocean below. Ah! Kevin 11 screamed as he plummeted downward, crashing onto the wrecked bridge. Without wasting a moment, the Feedback dove after him, its body crackling with electric energy, charging toward the fallen Kevin like a lightning-fast phantom in the night. Die! Kevin 11 snarled, struggling to raise his arm. It transformed into a cluster of dense crystalline spikes, each one carrying terrifying force as they rocketed toward his foe. In midair, the Feedback gathered electricity into its arm, the energy coiling around the limb before it swept forward with a mighty strike. In the next instant, a barrage of sharp crystal spikes shattered on contact with the Feedback's electric-infused arm. They exploded mid-air, their remnants scattering like green debris in the howling wind. Though Kevin 11 had absorbed the powers of 10 alien heroes, gaining their formidable abilities, he only held 1/10 of each hero's full strength. For example, the crystal spikes he had launched if they were at Diamond Head's peak power wouldn't have been so fragile. But Kevin only possessed a fraction of Diamond Head's strength, so the crystals were nowhere near as durable. After destroying the spikes, the Feedback continued its high-speed charge, slicing through the air and cutting past the swirling crystal dust before landing right in front of Kevin 11. Kevin 11 was stunned, his face drained of color, and he struggled to rise. Feedback extended its hand, pressing it forcefully against Kevin's chest, and released a torrent of searing electricity. Ah! Kevin 11's body convulsed violently as though he were enduring excruciating torture, his eyes rolling back in his head. Within seconds, Kevin 11 was knocked unconscious, his body emitting wisps of white smoke as he lost the ability to fight. The feedback stopped its electrical assault, pressing both hands firmly against Kevin's chest, preparing to absorb his energy. Kevin 11 had gained his alien powers by absorbing the energy of the Omnitrix. The frequent shifts between them had transformed him into Kevin 11. Lucian had an idea: if he drained Kevin's energy, could it return him to his original form? Suddenly, an overwhelming aura of darkness appeared from behind them. It was Ghost Freak. Without thinking, the feedback unleashed a bolt of lightning, blasting it backward. Z-Scare couldn't dodge in time and was struck squarely by the dazzling lightning bolt. He let out a piercing scream and instinctively stumbled backward, creating distance between himself and feedback. You! Z-Scare clutched his arm, now charred black. You're too weak. Feedback wiggled its fingers, grinning. I thought you might make me take this seriously. Looks like I overestimated you lot. You're asking for death. Enraged, Z-Scare's purple demonic eyes widened. Fuming with rage, he seethed with the urge to devour his opponent alive. Asking for death? Feedback feigned surprise. Are you talking about yourself? How dare you? I'll kill you today. Z-Scare tore open the gash in his chest, exposing black and white tentacles. A thick, purple beam erupted from within. The thick purple energy, like deathly light from the depths of the underworld, radiated murderous intent. It pierced the air along its path and slammed violently toward the nearby feedback. Come on then! Feedback's eyes lit up. Raising its left hand, it effortlessly blocked the surging purple light. The plugs on its fingers, like fish in water, began to dance with joy, frantically absorbing Ghost Freak's energy, channeling it into its own body, and refining it into surging electricity. After absorbing the entire purple beam, feedback felt its body brimming with energy. Even its breath grew scorching hot as the frenzied electricity relentlessly pounded its limbs and bones, seemingly searching for an outlet to vent. It could suppress this energy, digest it, and integrate it into its flesh and blood to enhance its own strength. But it had no intention of doing so. Here's your reward. The words barely left its mouth when a thick bolt of lightning erupted from feedback's palm. A blinding blue light flared, illuminating nearly the entire bridge. Carrying overwhelming energy, it surged forward like a raging torrent, crashing down upon the stunned Z-Scare. Crack! The massive lightning, like a roaring dragon, twisted and coiled with overwhelming ferocity. It overturned numerous cars in its path, reaching Ghost Freak in an instant. Just as the lightning dragon was about to strike, Z-Scare swiftly transformed into a phantom, passing through the thick bridge structure and vanishing beneath it. But he had clearly underestimated feedback's destructive power. A thunderous explosion echoed as the San Francisco Bridge was shattered by the ferocious lightning dragon, leaving a gaping hole in its wake. The assault didn't end there. Scorching electric light radiated outward from the impact point, rapidly enveloping the area and coalescing into blinding balls of lightning. The raging current instantly engulfed the fleeing Z-Scare. Frozen at the base of the bridge, his body shrouded in blue lightning, he rolled his eyes back in his head, emitting a shrill, piercing scream. Through the shattered bridge, feedback clearly witnessed this scene, letting out a cold laugh. Though Ghost Freak had entered its phantom state, expanding its molecular gaps to penetrate solids, this granted immunity only to ordinary physical attacks and a limited range of energy assaults. But feedback unleashed potent electricity, amplified by the absorption of its opponent's energy. With its internal electrical charge now intensified, even Ghost Freak's phantom form couldn't evade such a pure, concentrated strike. Feedback's tentacles locked onto Z-Scare. Just then, the dazzling lightning flashes retracted. The battered Z-Scare, seeing feedback's attack, abandoned caution. He fired a purple beam from his chest, which screeched toward feedback. The conductoid snorted coldly, absorbing it directly and refining it into its own energy. When it looked back toward the bridge's underside, Z's scare had vanished, likely entering stealth mode. Successfully defeated Kevin 11, Z's scare. Obtained a random scrapped hero's chest, can be opened anytime. Seeing Ghost Freak driven off, Feedback turned and walked straight up to Kevin. He then extended both hands, pressing them against Kevin's body to activate his energy absorption ability. As current surged into his own body, Feedback's gaze grew increasingly peculiar. All he absorbed was static electricity and a small amount of electrolytes from Kevin, no Omnitrix energy at all. Why is this happening? The Omnitrix replica's energy has fused with Kevin 11's genetic makeup. It no longer falls under the category of bioelectricity, making it inaccessible for absorption. The system's voice echoed in his mind. I see. Feedback realized. The Omnitrix's energy originally fell within the realm of bioelectricity. However, Kevin's frequent transformations had fused his genes with the energy, making them inseparable. This was why Kevin couldn't revert back, becoming the hideous Kevin 11. In this state, superpowers alone couldn't restore him. Only if Kevin's mindset and thoughts changed could he potentially control his genes and regain his original form. As Feedback pondered this, Kevin, who had been keeping his eyes closed, suddenly opened them, revealing a terrifying gaze. A chill ran through Feedback, who instinctively began to retreat. A piercing, excruciating pain struck him from behind without warning, as if a blade had been thrust into his flesh, sending a bone-chilling cold through him. Feedback stiffened, slowly turning around, eyes widening in shock. You're Ben. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Patreon.com/pinksnake, 50 chapters ahead. You can also follow as a free member to read a few advanced chapters. Chapter 166, Chapter 166, My name is Z's Scare. Pale skin, covered in cracks, with a single purple eye glaring from the center, filled with endless venomous hatred. The Ghost Freak's sharp claws pierced the Feedback's back. Ha, I'm not Ben. A cold glint flashed in the Feedback's eyes. It whipped its slender tail, the plug at its tip aimed squarely at Ghost Freak, erupting with a burst of blue-white lightning. Ghost Freak scrambled backward, narrowly evading the Feedback's attack. Just as the Feedback prepared to pursue, a sharp, urgent howl pierced the air from behind. It was Kevin. Feedback reacted swiftly, clenching its fist to unleash a blinding burst of electricity before twisting its body and slamming the attack backward. Boom! The ferocious electric fist collided with the scorching flame fist, erupting with a fierce, overwhelming force. Countless currents and sparks shattered around them, even the air itself seemed to wail. Bearing the scorching heat, the Feedback roared in fury, boosting its output. Surges of electricity surged toward Kevin, like agile snakes, coiling around his arm and rapidly spreading outward. Ah! Blue electricity swirled around Kevin's entire body, forcing a scream from him. That damned electricity again! Suddenly, a familiar aura of coldness emerged from behind Feedback. Feedback snorted coldly, knocking Kevin back with a single punch. It then leapt, dodging Z's Scare's sneak attack, landing beside the red bridge tower. "Cuz, are you okay?" Gwen ran up from behind, her eyes filled with concern. Grandpa Max's expression grew grave as he charged toward the Feedback, laser rifle in hand, aiming at the three aliens across the bridge. Across the shattered bridge stood Z's Scare, Ghost Freak, and Kevin 11, each wearing sinister grins, their eyes brimming with mockery and contempt. Watching Gwen frantically inspecting his injuries, Feedback shook his head with a smile. "These scrapes are nothing to me. Don't worry." Though Ghost Freak had ambushed him earlier, its attack power clearly fell short of Z's Scare's, likely because it hadn't shed its outer skin yet. "Lucian, what happened? Why did Ben suddenly attack you?" Grandpa Max frowned, then suddenly widened his eyes. Could it be, the Ghost Freak inside Ben's watch has developed self-awareness? Feedback stood motionless, his gaze intense, lost in thought. Heh, this is quite an unexpected bonus. Z-Scare chuckled wickedly, floating toward the ghost freak to examine it closely. The ghost freak remained in its transformed state, the Omnitrix emblem still embedded in its chest. What's going on? Did Ben Tennyson suddenly lose his mind and decide to defect to us? Kevin stared intently at the ghost freak beside him, utterly baffled. No, I don't think so. Z-Scare's violet eyes widened as he chuckled darkly. Every single gene within us ectonurites develops independent consciousness. Even when absorbed into the Omnitrix, it's no exception. During my time inside Lucian's watch, I was constantly plotting my escape day and night. Kevin scoffed coldly. Seems you lot are the real freaks. Same here. Z-Scare's voice was hoarse as he turned to the ghost freak. So, you've developed self-awareness too? Yes, ghost freak nodded, its form ethereal and ghostly, pale and terrifying. What's your name? Z-Scare asked. I'm Z-Scare. Ghost freak chuckled. Z-Scare. Hey! What? Z-Scare froze, shouting, I'm Z-Scare. Don't you dare impersonate me! Ghost freak scratched its head. In my memories, I truly was called Z-Scare. No, you can't use that name. Z-Scare's eyes flashed with menace as he leaned in close, threatening, Z-Scare is mine alone. You take another name or I'll reduce you to dust right now. Why? Why should you steal my name? Ghost freak retorted defiantly. Because I'm stronger than you. No sooner had the words left his mouth than Z-Scare grabbed Ghost freak by the head and slammed it into the ground, sending spider-web-like cracks rippling across the surface. Ghost freak struggled desperately to rise, but his strength was no match for his opponent's. He couldn't break free. In your current state, you're no match for me. Z-Scare roared with laughter. His power had fully recovered to its peak, nothing like when he'd first escaped the watch. The ghost freak before him hadn't even broken through its shell yet. How could it possibly stand a chance? This scene was all witnessed by the feedback nearby. Could it be, they're all independent entities? The feedback wondered inwardly. This was getting tricky. Two ghost freaks appearing simultaneously, plus that Kevin 11 even Vilgax himself would find this headache-inducing. The ghost freaks in the Omnitrix replica have genes replicated from the original Omnitrix. Theoretically, their genetic makeup is nearly identical, but they are independent entities with no mutual communication. Consider this analogy: when an earthworm is severed in half by a blade, the two regrown segments develop independent consciousness. Though sharing identical genes, their connection is severed. They won't share memories or thoughts, and may even clash violently. After hearing the system's explanation, feedback understood instantly. So the ghost freak DNA in Ben's watch was copied from his own watch. The two watches weren't connected, they merely shared the same genetic blueprint. It's worth noting that the Omnitrix replica's ghost freak DNA was copied before Lucian recalibrated his Omnitrix, meaning it's the ghost freak from the original watch. That's why their appearances differ. Z-Scare's appearance matched the Omnitrix calibrated version. His skin was more intact, featuring a black and white striped tail. The original ghost freak, however, remained white, as its outer layer hadn't been torn open yet. Now, who is the true king? Z-Scare grinned, pinning Ghost Freak to the ground and grinding him underfoot. I surrender. Ghost Freak felt utterly humiliated, yet powerless to resist. In his current state, he was no match for Z-Scare and had no choice but to concede defeat. But once he regained his full strength, Z-Scare snorted coldly, releasing Ghost Freak. Remember this, you are no longer Z-Scare. You are now Kiskar. Kiskar. Ghost Freak gave a sinister chuckle. Fine. I like that name. Blah blah blah, you're so noisy. Kevin 11 strode forward, glaring fiercely at the feedback. Lucian, we're not done settling this. Don't you dare run away. Just as the feedback was about to speak, the Omnitrix on the Ghost Freak's chest suddenly began to flicker. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Patreon.com/pinksnake, 50 chapters ahead. Chapter 167, Chapter 167, Unable to Tell the Difference. Beep beep beep. A strange sound rang out as a blinding red light burst from Ghost Freak's body. Ben stared blankly at his hands. What just happened? It felt like I fell asleep for a moment. That was seriously creepy. He, I've finally shaken you off, you little brat. A chilling laugh suddenly echoed from above. Ben's heart lurched. He snapped his head up, his pupils shrinking instantly. You're Ghost Freak. That's right. I've been waiting for this day for a very long time. The pale Ghost Freak sneered, stretching out its ghastly white claws as it lunged toward the panicked Ben. Whoosh! 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 Blue aqua arrow shots mixed with a dense barrage of laser fire, merging into a surging wave of energy that slammed violently into Ghost Freak. Ghost Freak screamed and hurriedly retreated, barely avoiding the sudden assault. Useless trash! Step aside and let me handle this. Kevin took several steps forward, forcing his way through the fierce lasers and aqua arrow. He raised his sharp crystal blade, preparing to bring it down on Ben. At the last possible second, a black figure rushed in. Lightning flashed around his legs as he scooped Ben up at astonishing speed, narrowly avoiding the deadly crystal blade. Feedback crackled with electricity as he carried the stunned Ben back to the bridge tower and set him down. "'Cause Ben brightened in relief, but then lowered his head, looking like a kid who knew he'd messed up. Earlier, Ben had lost control of Ghost Freak, which led to his cuz getting ambushed. The guilt weighed heavily on him. Feedback spread his hands, his voice humming with static. "That little scratch? Barely even itches. Now get behind the bridge tower. Kevin and the others are on me." Ben glanced down at the Omnitrix, still shrouded in crimson light, and let out a helpless sigh. "All right, be careful, cuz." Feedback turned and became a streak of blue light, racing straight back toward the battlefield. Meanwhile, Gwen and Grandpa Max were close to their limit. Their attacks weren't doing anything to Kevin at all. Ha 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 ha. What a bunch of weaklings. That Ben Tennyson brat what, hiding behind the bridge tower crying now. Kevin stood with his hands on his hips, completely ignoring the incoming aqua arrow and laser fire as he strode forward. Water Dragon Soul. Gwen began chanting, and a ferocious water dragon took shape in front of her. Guided by her will, the deep blue magical dragon let out a thunderous roar. It twisted through the air, carrying an overwhelming surge of water as it charged forward and slammed head-on into Kevin 11. "So lame, Ben Tennyson's cousin." Kevin reached out and crushed the water dragon in his hand, shards of water scattering instantly. "Ha ha ha ha, this is fun. Got any more? Send a few more little bugs over for this big shot to play with." "You." Gwen clenched her teeth in fury, her chest rising and falling sharply. "Ha ha ha ha, I love that look. You hate me, but you can't do a damn thing about it." Kevin burst into manic laughter, his face twisted into a grotesque grin. Gwen opened her mouth, about to retort. Just then, Feedback stepped forward and appeared beside her. "Let me handle him." Feedback stood in front of Gwen, posture steady and imposing, the tendrils on his body swaying lightly in the breeze. "Cuz." Gwen's cheeks flushed slightly. "Be careful. I'll support you from the back." Feedback shook his head and let out a quiet laugh. "No need. Dealing with a mere Kevin doesn't require anyone else." "What did you say? You bastard!" Kevin clenched his fists so hard they shook, his eyes practically blazing. "You blind idiot! How dare you look down on me? You're asking to die." Seeing Kevin on the verge of exploding with rage, Gwen covered her mouth and let out a soft laugh. The tension in her chest finally eased. Thankfully, her cuz was here to back her up. Otherwise, she really would have been bullied by Kevin. "Grandpa, you should fall back too." Feedback turned his head toward Grandpa Max, who was still firing non-stop. "Go behind the bridge tower and watch over Ben. His watch is still charging. We can't let Ghost Freak take advantage of that." "All right. Gwen, let's go." Grandpa Max nodded and retreated with Gwen. Provoked beyond restraint, Kevin's arm morphed into a massive sword, its crystal surface reflecting his twisted, ferocious face. He looked ready to tear Feedback apart with his bare hands. "Come and get it!" Kevin roared, smashing the bridge deck beneath his feet as he charged straight at Feedback. Feedback flickered aside, narrowly evading the crystal greatsword. His speed was astonishing. In the blink of an eye, he appeared behind Kevin and delivered a powerful kick that sent him crashing to the ground. Kevin bristled with rage and lashed out behind him, but the strike cut through empty air. Feedback leapt upward, stomped down on Kevin's head, then landed steadily on the shattered bridge surface. He raised both hands as arcs of electricity gathered in his palms, crackling violently as they locked onto Kevin. Just then, two ghost freaks arrived. Z-Scare and Kiskar dissolved into shadowy phantoms, vanishing completely. In the next instant, they attacked from Feedback's front and rear, ghostly energy surging like a black tide with terrifying momentum. Though Feedback couldn't see them, he clearly sensed the fierce gusts rushing in from both sides. That cold, resentful chill was unmistakable. Electricity coiled around his palms as Feedback thrust his hands forward and backward, unleashing violent bursts of lightning in both directions. Z-Scare's eyes widened. He hurriedly dodged to the side, but a bolt still caught the edge of his body, white smoke rising where it struck. "Damned conductoid!" He cursed furiously as he retreated to Kevin's side. Kiskar fared far worse. He was blasted straight back by the electricity, rolling to the ground beside Z-Scare. His pale skin was scorched black and torn apart by burn marks. "Kiskar, hurry up and shed that filthy skin." Z-Scare's voice was hoarse as he pointed at his white outer layer. "It only restrains our power." Feedback's eyes sharpened. Brilliant lightning erupted from his body, dazzling like a thunder god descending upon the battlefield. Wrapped in overwhelming killing intent, he charged forward at blinding speed. Kevin let out a furious roar and thrust out a massive flaming palm. A scorching shockwave exploded outward as he collided head-on with Feedback, the two locking together in a brutal struggle. Seizing the moment, Kiskar let out a twisted laugh and began tearing at his own outer skin. First, his palms split open, revealing black, skeletal claws. Then he ripped down the center, completely shredding the white layer. The original ghost freak. His skin was a tattered pale purple. Black claws extended from his hands, and stark white bones jutted from his exposed ribs. The sight was grotesque and horrifying. "This is my true form." Kiskar raised both hands, standing bathed in the darkness. Though Z-Scare and Kiskar looked similar at first glance, there were clear differences between them. Z-Scare was the Omnitrix calibrated form. His skin was deep purple and mostly intact. His claws were white, and his tail was fully exposed, patterned in black and white like the tentacles within his body. Kiskar, on the other hand, was the original ghost freak, the form before Omnitrix calibration. His pale purple skin was incomplete, with bones exposed in several places. His claws were black, and only a small portion of his tail was visible. So terrifying. Ben swallowed hard. Now there are two ghost freaks. I can't even tell which is which. Gwen frowned, completely at a loss. Grandpa Max's expression turned grim as he spoke. They're actually easy to tell apart. Just look closely. Hearing that, Ben and Gwen both widened their eyes and focused intently on the two figures. Boom! A massive bolt of lightning tore across the sky. Kevin's huge body was blasted away by feedback and sent flying into the ocean below, his fate unknown. Crackling with electricity, feedback slowly stepped forward, advancing towards Zscaer and Kiskar. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. patreon.com/pinksnake, 50 chapters ahead. Chapter 168, Chapter 168, Electric Cage. Staring at the imposing feedback, Zscaer clenched his teeth. Charge! Let's kill him together. Alright, Kiskar let out a low, sinister chuckle. Come on! Let me see just how strong two ghost freaks can be when they fight together. Electric sparks crackled across Feedback's body as he calmly took up a combat stance, showing no fear at all. Zscaer melted into the darkness and vanished. Kiskar extended his black claws and tore open his own chest, black and white tentacles bursting outward. I'm free now. No one can restrain me ever again. As the words left his mouth, a purple beam erupted from Kiskar's chest, eerie and sinister, thick with the aura of death as it shot straight toward Feedback. Feedback grinned. There was no way he would pass up such perfect nourishment. He reached out and began absorbing the ghost freak energy at full force. The purple beam visibly dimmed, fading at a speed the eye could follow, until it was completely drained. What? Kiskar cried out, his violet eyes widening in shock. Just as Feedback was about to counterattack, he suddenly sensed a surge of cold, sinister energy behind him. That trick again? Without even turning his head, Feedback whipped his tail, firing off a savage blue bolt of electricity that tore through the air behind him. Crack! The sound of air being ripped apart rang out. The attack didn't hit Zscaer at all, instead shredding a dense mass of dark energy into fragments that slowly dissipated in midair. You fell for it. From Feedback's side, Zscaer let out a chilling laugh. He ripped open his chest, releasing a massive purple beam as thick as a barrel that surged forward at terrifying speed. The dark energy behind Feedback earlier had only been a feint, meant to confuse his senses and make him think Zscaer was attacking from the rear. That way, he could strike from the side and deal a devastating blow to this hateful conductoid. After their earlier clash, Zscaer had already learned how dangerous Feedback was. He didn't dare try another backstab. Even if his energy might be absorbed, he would rather risk it for a chance to seriously injure Feedback. Watch out, Feedback! Ben shouted, panic rising as the purple beam closed in. Move, cuz! Gwen's face went pale as she hurriedly cast her water magic, wrapping Feedback in a shimmering bubble. But the seemingly sturdy magical barrier was no match for Zscaer's attack. It shattered instantly, like paper, exploding into a cloud of mist that spread around Feedback. Feedback's eyes flashed. The tendrils on his head twisted with precision and slammed into the purple beam. The yellow plug acted like a monstrous suction force, greedily devouring Zscaer's energy. In just a few breaths, it was all absorbed. Ha! Feedback let out a furious roar as an overwhelming aura erupted from his body, blasting nearby cars and scattered debris into the air. The ground beneath his feet shattered outright, tearing open yet another breach in the bridge. Countless chunks of concrete and twisted rebar plunged into the ocean below, swallowed by the endless abyss. Feedback thrust both palms downward, releasing a massive surge of electricity. Suspended in midair, his entire body was wrapped in crackling blue-white lightning that snapped and hissed around him. After absorbing the attacks of two ghost freaks at once, the energy surging inside Feedback was unimaginably vast and dense. His power had risen to a level he had never reached before. Damn it! Zscaer ground his teeth, seething. He never imagined his carefully planned ambush would be dismantled so easily. That conductoid was completely unreasonable, a freak among freaks. The frustration in Zscaer's heart was unbearable. As a proud ectonurite, he usually crushed or overwhelmed ordinary aliens without effort. Yet today, against Feedback, he was being suppressed at every turn. Close combat was hopeless. Long-range attacks were nothing but a joke. "This is bad," Kiskar muttered from the side, his pain and anxiety written all over his face. He had just escaped Ben Tennyson's watch, thinking he'd finally turn his luck around and rise to greatness. He never expected to run into a monster like Feedback instead. Worse still, he had only just broken free from the Omnitrix's restraints. His strength hadn't fully recovered yet. Not only had he been pushed around by Z's scare, the other had even taken his name. Now it wasn't just his name that was gone. His life was on the line too. It was like stepping out of the beginner's zone and immediately being thrown into nightmare difficulty. Looking up at Feedback floating in midair, his entire body wreathed in lightning, Gwen sighed softly. "'Cuz is still so cool. Get a grip." Ben stuck out his tongue. "Though yeah, I kinda agree. Lucian, finish this quickly. Don't give them any chance to recover." Grandpa Max shouted. Years of combat experience had taught him one simple rule. Even when victory seemed certain, you had to go all out and leave the enemy no room to fight back. After all, even a lion uses its full strength to hunt a rabbit. Feedback nodded. With every movement, violent arcs of lightning flickered around him like writhing thunder serpents. Hovering high above the bridge, he looked like an ancient thunder lord, shattering the darkness and illuminating the entire San Francisco Bridge. Even the abyssal sea below reflected his light, turning blue and white as if covered by a vast, rippling carpet of electricity. "No, this is bad. Run!" Z's scare sensed the danger and turned to flee. Feedback snorted coldly. Every yellow plug on his body, his fingers, shoulders, tail, and tendrils, all erupted with blinding light. With sharp, piercing sounds, countless blue currents shot forth, instantly covering the space above the two ghost freaks. The streams intertwined, forming a massive cage of lightning that sealed Z's scare and Kiskar inside. Z's scare tried to sink into the ground, only to find the surface itself coated in electricity. There was no way out, and the scorching current burned straight through him. "Conductoid, I hate you!" Z's scare roared, claws clenched tight with fury and resentment. "No, I don't want to die." Kiskar's mind teetered on the edge as he shook his head over and over. Had he just escaped the Omnitrix, only to die here? Feedback dropped down onto the bridge, looking at the two trapped figures within the electric cage without a shred of mercy. He raised both hands, gathering a terrifying concentration of electricity that crackled violently. Triggered alien hacker mission. Eliminate Z's scare and Kiskar. Upon successful completion, Z's scare's genetic data will be recovered, and Kiskar will be returned to Ben's Omnitrix. Note: Z's scare has fully recovered his peak strength. Upon recovery, all of Z's scare's abilities will be inherited. After transforming into Ghost Freak, you may freely tear away the outer skin to unleash immense dark power. Each transformation provides only one layer of white skin. Restoring it requires another transformation. The system's notifications echoed in Feedback's mind. His attack had finished charging. The vast electrical energy in his hands condensed into a razor-sharp blue spear of lightning. Beep! Suddenly, the Omnitrix on Feedback's chest flashed with an intense red light, and his form instantly reverted back to Lucian. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Patreon.com/pinksnake, 50 chapters ahead. Chapter 169, Chapter 169, Sandbox. A pale band of dawn slowly rose along the distant horizon. Faint light spilled across the shattered San Francisco Bridge, glinting coldly in the rearview mirrors of abandoned vehicles. Lucian stared at his own hands, his heart sinking. Of all times to revert, it had to be now. No warning, no time to react. In a single second, he was forced back into his original form. Without Feedback's energy to sustain it, the massive electric cage quickly ran out of power and vanished before everyone's eyes. The sudden turn of events left Z's scare frozen for a moment. This When he saw Lucian's appearance clearly, he burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha! Luck is truly on our side. Now that you've lost the conductoid's support, let's see what tricks you've got left. Kiskar let out a cold sneer. Looks like fate still favors us. But... Kiskar turned his head, gazing toward the steadily brightening sky. Dawn is almost here. We have to deal with this brat before the sunlight reaches us. The two ferocious ghost freaks bared their claws and lunged at Lucian together. Don't you dare hurt my cuz! Gwen rushed forward, forming a blue water dragon soul that surged with dense magical energy, barely forcing the two attackers back. Lucian, we're here to help! Grandpa Max shouted, hoisting his laser cannon and firing at the strongest of them, Z's Scare. Z's Scare shifted into a spectral form, slipping past the laser blast with ease. You think the few of you can stop us? And don't forget this great hero. Ben showed no fear as he ran to Lucian's side, standing shoulder to shoulder with him against the terrifying ghost freaks. But Ben's Omnitrix was still recharging, glowing a warning red. Hee such touching family bonds, Z's Scare mocked with a wicked grin. This old ghost freak almost shed a tear. Enough talk, Kiskar snapped, extending his pitch-black claws as he charged forward. Let's wipe out these pests already. Don't forget about us. A powerful voice rang out from behind them. Captain Shaw, his short blonde hair gleaming, stepped forward with dual pistols in hand. Behind him, a squad of fully armed special forces raised their heavy weapons, all aiming squarely at the two ghost freaks. Captain Shaw? Awesome! Ben cheered, suddenly finding him a lot more likable. Lucian's eyes narrowed slightly. Looks like saving Captain Shaw wasn't a waste after all. Suddenly, the ocean below began to churn violently, as if some terrifying creature were stirring beneath the surface. Ben Tennyson, we're not finished yet. Kevin 11 stomped down on a jagged reef, launching himself upward with explosive force. Midair, he used Heat Blast's power to rapidly dry his soaked wings. Then, with a thunderous flap, he hurtled downward and slammed into the ground right in front of Z's Scare. Now this is getting interesting, Kiskar said with a sinister chuckle. Z's Scare's violet eyes gleamed. So, who do you think is the real winner now? With Kevin here, none of you can stop us. Oh, come on, couldn't you just stay in the ocean? Ben rubbed his forehead. Seeing Kevin always gave him a headache. Humph, Ben Tennyson. Kevin roared, his face twisted with rage. As long as you're still alive, I'll chase you to the ends of the earth. Cuz, what do we do now? Gwen asked anxiously, instinctively moving closer to Lucian. I'll cover you, Grandpa Max said in a low voice, his eyes never leaving the enemies ahead. Find a chance to escape. The faster, the better. Facing three powerful alien threats, Captain Shaw frowned deeply. Captain, the enemy is too strong. Should we order a retreat? A subordinate whispered. Captain Shaw's gaze turned icy as he barked, silence. We are soldiers. We do not retreat in the face of battle, especially not in front of civilians. Yes. The soldier lowered his head, ashamed. Wait for my command. Be ready to fire. Captain Shaw shouted. No matter what happened today, he would not back down. It wasn't just because of his position. These people had saved his life. If he ran now, he would never forgive himself. At that moment, Z's Scare looked up at the ashen sky. The growing light in the distance told him there was no more time to waste. Attack! Let's strike together and wipe out all future trouble. Kiskar let out a low laugh. Perfect! That's exactly what I was thinking. Kevin's crystal right arm morphed into a massive battle axe as he strode toward the group. Lucian kept his hands in his pockets, his voice cold. You really think I don't have a way to deal with you? Open the random scrapped hero chest, Lucian said silently to himself. Successfully opened scrapped hero chest. Obtained alien hero, Sandbox. Sandbox, one of the aliens originally chosen by Ben for Kenny. Its core is a green box that can fully contain its body. It can render its form irregular, flowing like sand. Abilities: freely alters its shape, moves without restriction, and possesses immense power capable of creating sandstorms. Weakness: the green box at its center is vulnerable. Like an anti-gravity device, if it is seized and shut down, the body becomes a pile of immobile sand. Beep. A strange sound rang out as Lucian's calibrated Omnitrix shifted from red to green. Whenever a new hero was acquired, there was no need to wait for the watch to recharge. Only the next transformation required a cooldown. Lucian pressed the Omnitrix. A hologram of Sandbox sprang up, and he slammed his hand down. Thud. Lucian's lean body rapidly broke apart, dissolving into countless grains of yellow sand. The storm of sand surged outward, releasing a powerful presence that forced everyone nearby to shield their eyes. When the green light finally faded, the scene became clear. Lucian was gone. In his place stood a towering humanoid figure made entirely of fine yellow sand. Dust and grit swirled endlessly around it, and several green eyes of varying sizes gleamed from its head. At the center of its body was a green box, embedded with the Omnitrix symbol. Sandbox. What? How is that possible? Kevin shouted in shock. Why did your watch recharge so fast? Zskar and Kiskar stared in disbelief, rubbing their eyes as if they couldn't trust what they were seeing. That's awesome. Cuz, you're insanely cool. Ben laughed proudly, pointing at the three enemies. You freaks aren't getting away today. Gwen's pale face immediately brightened with a joyful smile. Grandpa Max's lips curved upward, his eyes filled with relief and pride. Amazing. Continuous transformations, Captain Shaw said, clapping openly. In all my years in the military, I've never seen a watch this incredible. He laughed heartily as he looked at the imposing sandbox. All right then. Let's take care of those three freaks together. You're asking for it. The moment Kevin heard the word freaks, he snapped. Flames burst from his raised palm, surging violently outward. Arrogant. Sandbox let out a low roar. His body scattered into a swirling mass of fine sand, spinning faster and faster until a terrifying sand tornado formed, roaring as it swept toward the enemies. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Patreon.com/pinksnake, 50 chapters ahead. You can also follow as a free member to read a few advanced chapters. Chapter 170, Chapter 170, Desert War God. Whoosh! A towering sand tornado rose before everyone's eyes. Howling winds and choking dust raged violently, sweeping up countless cars and grinding them to pieces. The entire San Francisco bridge shook precariously, on the verge of collapsing. Yet strangely enough, the sand tornado did not harm Ben or Captain Shaw's group. Instead, it carried them away from the battlefield, placing them safely at a distance from the center of the fight. You freak, don't think you can beat us. Kevin shouted, eyes wide as every muscle in his body tensed. The flames he had just unleashed were smothered instantly by Sandbox, leaving not even a trace behind. At this moment, Sandbox had fully transformed into a terrifying tornado. Its destructive power was staggering. Thick bridge cables were dragged inside, twisted violently, and torn apart, scattering as countless red fragments that rained down into the sea. A green box floated steadily at the center of the tornado, perfectly protected. That box was Sandbox's core and also his weakness. Like Goop's anti-gravity device, it allowed him to overcome Earth's gravity, freely alter his form, and move without restraint. Without it, he would collapse into a useless pile of sand, unable to move at all. Lucian understood this better than anyone. In battle, he had to protect that box at all costs and never let it fall into enemy hands. Staring at the terrifying sand tornado, Kevin raised his arm, which rapidly transformed into a dense mass of crystalline spikes. With a sharp motion, he fired them all forward in a furious barrage. But the moment the spikes reached the edge of the tornado, they were torn apart by its violent force, shattering into countless green fragments that mixed into the storm, adding flecks of emerald to the swirling sand. After effortlessly dismantling the attack, Sandbox directed the tornado straight toward Kevin. The sheer force carved deep trenches into the ground as sand and dust roared through the sky, darkening the surroundings as if the end of the world had arrived. What a terrifying ability! Z's scare stood frozen, forgetting to flee for a moment. Kiskar clenched his teeth. This brat cannot be allowed to live. If we let him keep growing stronger, we'll all die by his hands sooner or later. The two ghost freaks exchanged a glance and nodded in unison. Wrapped in chilling dark energy, they surged forward, charging straight at the sand tornado. Meanwhile, Kevin was already locked in a brutal clash with Sandbox. Whoosh! A torrent of scorching flames burst from Kevin's hand, waves of fire rolling violently as they slammed into the sand tornado. Yet not even a spark survived. The flames were snuffed out instantly, erased by the storm. Ha 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 ha! That's it! A mouth formed on the surface of the sandstorm, mocking him openly. That kind of firepower is pathetic. Damn it! I refuse to believe I can't kill you! Kevin roared, veins bulging as he charged forward. You're nothing but a pile of living sand, and you dare provoke me? I'll burn you into a heap of black slag! Come on, Sandbox replied, his voice deep and unwavering. Kevin rushed in, swinging his fists wildly and smashing them into the sand tornado, sending clouds of dust flying everywhere. Suddenly, a massive foot emerged from the storm, wrapped in violently churning sand. It slammed down hard onto Kevin, crushing him into the ground in an instant. The high-speed sand was as sharp as blades, tearing across Kevin's back and drawing agonized screams from his throat. His earlier fight with feedback had already left him badly injured and nearly out of stamina. He was far from his peak, and now, under Sandbox's overwhelming assault, he had no strength left to resist. Just as Sandbox completely suppressed Kevin, the two ghost freaks arrived. You brat, don't get too cocky! Z's scare roared, tearing open the gash in his chest as an eerie purple beam burst forth, slamming straight toward Sandbox. Kiskar followed close behind, unleashing his strongest killing move as well, striking at Sandbox while he was still in tornado form. However, the instant the two raging purple light dragons collided with the sand whirlwind, they were swallowed by countless surging grains of sand. Twisted apart and shattered, they dissolved into scattered points of purple light, blending into the towering sand vortex. Kiskar rushed in, black claws extended and wrapped in dense, chilling energy, slashing viciously at the storm. Humph! A cold snort echoed from within the terrifying sand vortex. Sandbox rapidly altered his form, sand assembling and reshaping at high speed, until he gradually took on the shape of a towering desert war god. Clad in golden sand armor and crowned with a golden diadem, he stood nearly 15 meters tall, powerfully built, gripping a massive golden sand sword. A terrifying aura radiated from him, like a dormant beast ready to strike. As for the anti-gravity device, Sandbox had already concealed it within his head, protecting it completely. So cool! Cuz's alien looks insanely strong. Gwen's eyes lit up as she stared at the desert giant in the distance. Relax. When has Cuz ever let us down? Ben grinned confidently. Beep. Beep. Suddenly, the Omnitrix on Ben's wrist emitted a strange sound as its color shifted from red to green. Charged. Oh yeah! My lousy little watch finally finished charging. Ben cheered, jumping in excitement. He immediately pressed the Omnitrix, the hero selection screen popping up as he scanned through it rapidly. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, which one should I pick? Ben hesitated for a moment, then his eyes lit up. Got it! You're the one! With that, he raised his hand and slammed it down on the Omnitrix. On the battlefield, the towering desert war god displayed overwhelming might, completely suppressing Kevin and the others. With a casual motion, he formed a sand shackle, pinning Kevin firmly to the ground and locking him in place, making escape impossible for the time being. "Damn it! You freak, let me go if you've got the guts!" Kevin roared, pounding the ground in fury. If he were still at his peak, Sandbox wouldn't have been able to restrain him so easily. But his earlier fight with feedback had drained him badly, and being blasted into the ocean had left him seriously injured. Ignoring Kevin's enraged shouting, the desert war god focused entirely on Zskar and Kiskar. These two ectonurites could turn invisible and become intangible. They had to be dealt with first, or they might seize the chance to escape. Roar! The desert war god let out a thunderous roar, swinging his golden sand sword. Brilliant afterimages slashed through the air, enveloping the two ghost freaks and forcing them back step by step. Damn it! Turning into a conductoid was bad enough, and now this terrifying monster. Zskar snarled in misery. He had thought that once feedback was gone, Lucian would be easy to deal with. He never expected Lucian to turn into something like this. To be honest, even he had no idea what kind of alien this was. He had never seen it before, not even heard of it. Kiskar, his body covered in sword marks, was driven back, terror filling his eyes. What is going on? I've already gone intangible. Why am I still being hit? There's something wrong with that sword. Zskar growled, teeth clenched. In truth, the sword itself wasn't special. Sandbox could freely control the density of the fine sand making up his weapon, adjusting the gaps between the grains. By dispersing those gaps, the golden sand sword could still strike the ghost freaks. Ghost freaks' intangibility worked by expanding the gaps between his own molecules to avoid physical attacks. Sandbox simply did the same with the sand grains in his sword, cancelling out that effect. As for invisibility, it was even less effective. Sandbox had already filled a 100-meter radius with dense sand dust. By sensing the movement of the sand, he could clearly detect the ghost freak's sinister aura and pinpoint their positions instantly. In the distance, the mountain slowly took on a golden outline. "No, it's almost dawn!" Zskar cried out in alarm. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. patreon.com/pinksnake, 50 chapters ahead. You can also follow as a free member to read a few advanced chapters. Chapter 171, Chapter 171, Trying to Run? If the sky fully brightened and sunlight reached this place, they would be burned alive and reduced to ashes. Ectonurites, despite wielding powerful dark abilities, shared the same fatal weakness as the undead of legend. Sunlight was their natural enemy, a bane they were born to fear. The desert war god swung his long sword, slashing fiercely at Kiskar, but the attack was narrowly dodged. Stab! The golden sand blade carved a brilliant arc through the air before crashing into a massive tree. The terrifying force cleaved the trunk clean in half, sending it toppling onto the dust-covered road. Fortunately, Captain Shaw had already led the alien containment units into the city to evacuate civilians, keeping them far from the battlefield. As a result, there were no civilian casualties. Zskar raised his head, staring at the sky as it grew brighter by the second. Fear and unease churned violently in his chest. Dodging the sandbox's attack, he turned sharply toward Kiskar. Dawn is almost here. We can't drag this out any longer. Let's attack together, force that brat back, and withdraw immediately. Kiskar nodded. All right. At this point, they had no room for hesitation. Only by breaking through could they escape alive. The imposing desert war god, who had been dealing with two ghost freaks, suddenly shifted his gaze to the ground beneath him. The enraged Kevin 11 had torn himself free from the bindings of fine sand. His bloodshot eyes locked onto the towering desert war god with murderous intensity. The sandbox extended his arm, preparing to suppress Kevin once more. But the two ghost freaks had already surged forward, radiating chilling hostility, clearly intent on tearing the sandbox apart. "'Cause, Kevin's mine. I'll handle him!" a hoarse voice called out from the side. The sandbox turned his head, his eyes flashing. A humanoid creature with a serpent's tail was slithering toward them at high speed. Slender and nearly 2 meters tall, its entire body was covered in crimson skin layered with hard scales. Each fist bore a sharp spike that glinted with cold light, resembling lethal knuckle blades. On the left side of its chest was embedded the black and white symbol of the Omnitrix. "So it's Red Spike Snake," the sandbox said, immediately recognizing him. The last time, within the Great One's body, Lucian had encountered the 4 great believers, Tygone, Eric, Red Spike Snake, and Cham Alien. The alien gene before him had clearly been extracted from that encounter. "Ben Tennyson, it's you again." Hearing Red Spike Snake call Lucian "cuz," Kevin instantly guessed his identity. His expression twisted into something savage and feral. "Ha! You pathetic loser! If you've got the nerve, come at me. This great hero guarantees I'll beat you into the dirt." As the words left his mouth, Red Spike Snake was already in front of Kevin. Without another word, the two clashed head-on. Their brutal exchange shook the ground beneath them. Seeing this, the desert war god nodded slightly, a trace of approval flashing through his eyes. But in the next instant, that look hardened into icy killing intent. The two grotesque ghost freaks, shrouded in chilling aura, rushed forward at terrifying speed. Z's scare tore open his chest, exposing writhing, nauseating tentacles. "Die, you snot-nosed brat!" The moment his voice fell, a raging purple dragon burst forth from his body, carrying dense deathly energy as it roared toward them. Kiskar followed suit, unleashing his signature purple beam and firing it straight at the desert war god's head. "Overestimating yourself!" The desert war god let out a furious shout and planted his feet firmly. His left hand clenched in midair, condensing a shield of golden sand out of nothing. He compressed it relentlessly, increasing its density until it became harder than solid gold. Shield raised, he thrust it forward, blocking both purple beams head-on and deflecting them as they scattered in all directions. In his other hand, he gripped the sharp golden longsword and swung with overwhelming force. Rib! The savage sand-forged blade tore through the air and struck Kiskar in an instant. "No!" Kiskar shrieked, his scream shrill and ghastly. A deep, glaring wound split open across his body, dark energy leaking out without end. Seeing this, Z's scare immediately cut off his attack and withdrew the purple beam. His form blurred as he slipped into invisibility, dissolving into nothingness and fleeing toward the distance. "Z's scare, get back here!" Kiskar shouted in shock and rage, never expecting him to abandon the fight. "Heh! Kiskar, just accept your fate. I'll find a chance to avenge you." Z's scare's voice drifted faintly through the air. "Trying to run? Not happening." The sandbox snorted coldly and hurled the shield in his left hand. Mid-flight, it unraveled into streams of golden sand that rapidly formed a cage, catching up to Z's scare in an instant and trapping him inside. The sand spread throughout the area clearly outlined Z's scare's position. His invisibility was completely useless. "Let me go!" Z's scare howled hysterically, stretching out bone-white claws and hacking desperately at the prison. At that moment, a warm ray of sunlight rose from the east, shining down on the San Francisco Bridge. As the sunlight touched Z's scare, it was as if boiling water had been poured over him. He let out a piercing scream as thick white smoke billowed from his body, sizzling violently. Ah! In the end, Z's scare disintegrated into a cloud of ash, scattering into the sky. "Don't kill me! Don't kill me! I'm begging you!" Kiskar pleaded, inching closer to the desert war god. But the instant he drew near, a vicious gleam flashed in his eyes. Pitch-black ghostly claws shot forward, aiming straight for the desert war god's eyes. Already prepared, the sandbox felt no ripple of emotion. He calmly reached out and seized Kiskar in his grasp. With a powerful throw, he hurled him directly into the sunlight. Ah! Severely injured to begin with, Kiskar managed only a single scream before the blazing rays reduced him to blackened ash, slowly dispersing into the air. Successfully eliminated Zskar and Kiskar. Ghost Freak's genetic data recovered. Kiskar will return to Ben's watch and will no longer possess independent consciousness. Note, as Zskar had already restored himself to peak condition, you may inherit Zskar's full strength. Chapter 172, Chapter 172, The Golden Sea Serpent. After dealing with the two ghost freaks, the desert war god's massive form rapidly shrank, returning to its original state. The sandbox glanced down at his hands, watching the sand continue to flow between his fingers, and could clearly feel how much energy he had expended. It seemed that while gigantification greatly boosted his combat power, it also drained stamina at a much faster rate. Against ordinary opponents, his normal form was more than enough. Boom! A thick pillar of flame surged forward like a roaring dragon, carrying blistering heat as it slammed straight toward Red Spike Snake. Red Spike Snake grabbed a nearby car and hurled it forward, blocking the incoming flames head-on. Unfortunately for that lucky car, it exploded midair in a blinding burst of fire. Shattered parts and bolts scattered everywhere, clanging loudly as they hit the ground. Oh, come on! How am I even supposed to fight with this thing? Red Spike Snake weaved left and right to evade Kevin's attacks, his frustration steadily mounting. Ha! You're still as pathetic as ever, buddy. Kevin burst into laughter as he extended a crystal arm and grabbed hold of Red Spike Snake. Red Spike Snake startled and struggled fiercely, trying to break free from Kevin's grip. But at barely 2 meters tall, his strength was nowhere near enough to match Kevin's bulky frame. His arm was locked tightly in place, leaving him unable to escape. Die, Ben Tennyson! Kevin raised his right hand, reshaping it into a razor-sharp blade, and brought it crashing down. Red Spike Snake's crimson pupils shrank sharply. Faced with imminent death, his instincts kicked in and his latent potential erupted. Clang! A sharp, blood-red spear shot out from his fist, bracing in front of him and stopping Kevin's blade dead in its tracks. What? Kevin froze, completely caught off guard. Nice! I'm starting to love this alien hero, Red Spike Snake said with a wide grin. SHH, SHH. Suddenly, a faint rustling sound came from behind. Kevin snapped his head around, a flash of panic crossing his eyes. It was the sandbox. He slid across the ground like a mass of flowing golden liquid, rapidly closing the distance. Seeing the seemingly harmless sandbox, Kevin's heart sank. Zskar and Kiskar were already dead. He was the only one left, fighting on his own. If it were just Ben Tennyson, he might still have a chance. But the presence of the sandbox filled him with dread. Kevin hadn't missed a single moment of the Desert War God's terrifying strength earlier. No. He couldn't stay here any longer. If he did, he would definitely be cut down today, trapped between the sandbox and the still dangerous Red Spike Snake. With a ruthless resolve, Kevin poured all his strength into the crystal blade and slammed Red Spike Snake back. Then he leapt without hesitation, diving straight off the San Francisco Bridge. Splash! His body vanished into the early morning sea, white waves erupting where he disappeared. Don't run! Seeing his opponent trying to escape, Red Spike Snake immediately gave chase and jumped straight into the ocean after him. But the moment he hit the water, a powerful sense of suffocation slammed into him. Gurgle! Endless sea water surged in from all directions, wrapping tightly around Red Spike Snake's slender body. He covered his mouth and struggled violently, pain flooding through him as he found himself completely unable to breathe. Red Spike Snake had originally assumed that, since he was snake-like, swimming wouldn't be a problem. He never expected that he would actually be afraid of water. For a brief moment, even Ben thought this alien was unbelievably lame. Just as Red Spike Snake's consciousness began to blur, a mass of golden sand moved through the water like a stealthy sea serpent. It coiled around his body and dragged him back up to the surface. Huff! Red Spike Snake burst out of the water, gasping for air as he coughed violently, spitting out mouthfuls of salty sea water. Beside him, the enormous golden sea serpent gradually transformed into a human shape, a green box embedded in the center of its chest. Faint green eyes stared silently at the utterly miserable Red Spike Snake. Red Spike Snake scratched his head in embarrassment. "Sorry, cuz. I was too reckless. I just wanted to chase Kevin." Sandbox waved his hand, stirring up a bit of sand. "Forget it. Let's head back. Just don't be so impulsive next time." "Awesome. We can finally go back and eat some Sumo Slammers cereal." Red Spike Snake cheered, then immediately drooped. But Kevin got away. He's absorbed the abilities of 10 aliens, including Rupia's genes. He can breathe freely underwater and he's extremely fast, Sandbox said after a brief pause. "My movement is limited in the water, so catching Kevin won't be easy. More importantly, his earlier transformation into the desert giant had consumed far too much energy. He was already close to reverting to human form, and chasing Kevin any further would only put him in danger. Oh, what a pain. Guess we'll have to wait for next time," Red Spike Snake sighed. Before long, Sandbox and Red Spike Snake returned to the bridge and gradually reverted to their original forms. "Cuz, I'm so glad you're okay." Gwen's face lit up with relief and excitement. "The feedback and Sandbox you transformed into today were amazing. Way stronger than your previous aliens." "Hey, I helped too, you know." Ben immediately sulked. His nerdy cousin only praised their cousin and didn't say a single word about him. Grandpa Max stepped forward and patted Ben on the head. "Hee, you both did great today. You protected the city and took down 2 ghost freaks. That's really impressive." "Of course. When has this hero ever messed up?" Only then did Ben's expression finally soften. Beep. The Omnitrix on Ben's wrist suddenly emitted a strange sound and switched to a green screen. "Hey? What's going on?" Ben focused and cautiously tapped the watch, bringing up the Omnitrix interface. The next moment, Ghost Freak's genetic profile lit up on the display. Ben's eyes widened. He rubbed them in disbelief. "Awesome! Ghost Freak's DNA is back? How did that happen?" "It must be because Lucian defeated Ghost Freak, causing the DNA to return to the watch," Grandpa Max said with a hearty laugh. "That's great! I can turn into Ghost Freak again!" Ben exclaimed, overjoyed, as if he'd just recovered something precious he had lost. Lucian's watch showed the same change, having also reclaimed Ghost Freak's genetic data. Moreover, his Ghost Freak was Z's Scare, whose power had already returned to its peak. All of that strength had been inherited by Lucian, making him far more powerful than Ben's version. At that moment, Lieutenant Steele led the Special Alien Containment Team toward them. "Pleasure working with you, Watchboy." Lieutenant Steele gave a faint, unreadable smile and extended his hand toward Lucian. "I don't know how you pulled this off, but you defeated the rampaging alien monsters. That's enough for me." "You're too kind," Lucian replied calmly as he shook his hand. Lieutenant Steele then glanced at Grandpa Max, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Mission complete. Pack it up." With that order, Lieutenant Steele led his team into the black Humvees, which quickly sped off into the distance. With the crisis resolved, everyone set off once again toward their next destination. Along the way, Gwen looked worried and whispered, "Grandpa, both Lucian and Ben exposed their identities today. Won't Lieutenant Steele capture them for experiments?" Lucian gave a slight nod. It was indeed a potential problem. He wasn't afraid of Lieutenant Steele, but the man was backed by the military and had deep connections. If things turned hostile, it wouldn't be easy. Grandpa Max paused for a moment, then laughed. Don't worry. Grandpa will just go have a word with the plumbers. They won't make things difficult for ordinary folks like us. That's a relief, Gwen said, finally relaxing. As for Ben, he was already absorbed in a frenzied game of sumo slammers, a bucket of popcorn sitting on the table as he enjoyed himself to the fullest. Under the warm morning sun, a battered old RV rumbled onward with a dull roar, continuing toward the distant horizon. Chapter 173, Chapter 173, The Omnitrix is Missing? Early the next morning, Lucian slowly opened his eyes. As usual, he brushed his teeth, tidied his messy hair, washed his face with a bit of cleanser, and then sat down to eat the nutritious breakfast Grandpa had prepared. Halfway through his bread, Lucian suddenly felt that something was off. Normally, at this time of day, Gwen and Ben would already be arguing non-stop over who got to use the sink first. But today, it was strangely quiet. Lucian looked around, but there was no sign of either of them. Even Grandpa Max was nowhere to be seen. After finishing breakfast, Lucian stepped out of the RV and realized they were parked at a gas station. Grandpa Max was talking with a staff member nearby, though it wasn't clear what they were discussing. Gwen and Ben stood off to the side holding ice cream cones, licking them every now and then. Suddenly, two masked criminals roared toward them on modified motorcycles, engines screaming as they sped forward. They charged in arrogantly, forcing pedestrians out of the way as they barreled straight toward the group. "Ah! Help!" Gwen screamed in fear and ran off, dropping her ice cream, which splattered across the ground. Lucian was taken aback. Even if they were riding motorcycles, was it really enough to scare Gwen like that? After all, she was a girl who could use magic. Dealing with a couple of thugs should have been easy for her. Meanwhile, Ben remained standing where he was, his face full of confidence and disdain, showing no fear at all toward the criminals. "Ben, get out of the way!" Grandpa Max shouted. Had his grandson been scared senseless? "No, Grandpa. Let this hero handle it," Ben said with a grin. "Because I've got 4 hands." As soon as he finished speaking, Ben raised his wrist and slammed it down. "Hey!" Ben froze and hurriedly looked at his wrist. It was empty. There was no sign of the Omnitrix at all. "Oh no, what's going on?" Ben's eyes widened, barely able to believe what he was seeing. Lucian's eyes narrowed as well, equally shocked. What was happening? At that moment, the two vicious criminals twisted their throttles hard, their motorcycles nearly crashing straight into Ben. Lucian instinctively reached for his own wrist, but his hand met nothing. Hey? What was going on now? He lowered his head and realized that, just like Ben, his Omnitrix was gone as well. "System, what's going on?" Lucian asked silently in his mind. There was no response. Only silence. Even the system was gone. What in the world was happening? Facing the oncoming criminals, Ben, now without his watch, panicked completely. He stood there helpless and frozen, too shocked to react. Just as the criminals were about to slam into Ben, Grandpa Max rushed in at the critical moment. "No one is allowed to hurt my grandson." Grandpa Max was still as sharp as ever. He grabbed a fuel nozzle and hurled it with all his strength, smashing it straight into one of the thugs. "Ah!" The masked criminal cried out as his motorcycle lost balance, skidding across the ground and spraying sparks everywhere. The other thug had already rushed up to Ben, the distance between them no more than 2 or 3 meters. Grandpa Max wanted to act, but it was already too late. At the critical moment, a metal trash can flew through the air and struck the thug squarely on the head. Clang! The thug dropped on the spot. The motorcycle beneath him tipped over, scraping along the ground for a short distance before coming to a stop, its 2 thick wheels still stubbornly spinning. Grandpa Max's eyes widened. After a moment, he finally reacted. Lucian. It was me. Lucian smiled faintly. He had thrown the trash can. Ben let out a shaky breath and patted his chest. Whew! Those losers almost ran me over. Grandpa Max glanced at the fallen thugs and then at the police sirens growing louder in the distance. Kids, get in the car. Now. Lucian and the others immediately nodded and rushed into the rust bucket. They pulled away from the gas station before the police cars arrived. Sitting in the passenger seat, Lucian felt deeply uneasy. Not only had he lost the Omnitrix, but even the system was gone. This was no small problem. Lucian closed his eyes and began to think carefully. In his memory, this situation felt oddly familiar. In the original story, there had been an episode where Ben didn't have the watch either. In that parallel universe, it was Gwen who obtained the Omnitrix. Could it be that he had crossed into that parallel universe? In the Ben 10 universe, the setting was vast, with countless timelines and dimensions, the so-called parallel universes. In each one, anyone could potentially be the protagonist. Although most universes had Ben Tennyson as the lead, there were exceptions. Gwen, Grandpa Max, and even Arjit had all obtained the Omnitrix in certain parallel worlds and become the main character there. Lucian suspected that he had ended up in a different parallel universe. The only question was, who the protagonist of this one was. On the other side, Ben looked frustrated, rummaging through everything he could find while muttering non-stop. No way! The Omnitrix shouldn't just detach on its own. What's going on? This is so annoying. Ben, what exactly are you looking for? Grandpa Max asked. The Omnitrix. The watch that lets me turn into aliens. Ben said angrily. I don't know why, but it's gone today. Grandpa Max's heart jolted. He took a deep breath and forced himself to stay calm. Ben, what are you talking about? When I picked you up from school, I didn't see any watch at all, and that was less than 2 hours ago. What? Less than 2 hours? Ben stared at him in disbelief. 2 weeks ago, we were at Mount Rushmore beating Vilgax to a pulp. I turned into 4 arms and personally blasted him onto his ship. The moment the name Vilgax was spoken, Grandpa Max's hands trembled violently. He slammed hard on the brakes. If you'd like to support my work and unlock advanced chapters, you can follow me on Patreon. Patreon.com/pinksnake, 50 chapters ahead. You can also follow as a free member to read a few advanced chapters. Chapter 174, Chapter 174, The Blue Airship. Screech. The rust bucket suddenly slammed on the brakes, fishtailing hard across the road and carving dark tire marks into the asphalt, nearly tipping over. Fortunately, Grandpa Max reacted in time, forcing the vehicle back under control and continuing down the road. Gwen's face turned pale. Grandpa, what just happened just now? Grandpa Max let out an awkward chuckle. It's nothing. A skunk suddenly ran out. Almost hit it. Even as he said that, his heart was pounding with shock and confusion. Why would Ben know about Vilgax? What was really going on here? Seeing Ben still frowning as he rummaged through the cabinets non-stop, Gwen chuckled softly and walked over. Dweeb, let me help you look. That watch you keep talking about, what does it even look like? Ben rolled his eyes. Oh, come on. You've been seeing it for almost half the summer already. It's the Omnitrix. What's wrong with you guys? Did everyone lose their memory or something? Gwen pouted and shot her dweeb cousin a look of pure disdain. What are you even talking about? Omni what? I don't understand a word you're saying. Did you pick up another weird term from some game? It's an alien watch. It lets me turn into 10 different aliens. You big dummy. Your tiny brain must have overheated, Gwen snapped, clearly annoyed and unable to figure out what had gotten into Ben. Grandpa Max kept both hands on the steering wheel, eyes fixed on the road ahead. Ben, stop fooling around. Your cousin just came back from studying abroad and plans to spend the summer with us. Don't leave him with a bad impression. Ben froze for 2 seconds, then suddenly shouted. Oh, come on. 2 weeks ago I used the Omnitrix to beat Vilgax senseless and saved everyone here. That stupid tentacle freak was insanely strong. He even took my cousin hostage to threaten me. And in the end, I still blasted him straight into outer space. Have you all seriously forgotten? Grandpa Max's expression changed instantly, the corner of his mouth twitching. What Vilgax? Don't talk nonsense, Ben. I think it's time we cut down your gaming time. Gwen spread her hands and stopped paying attention to him altogether. Lucian sat quietly in the passenger seat, his mind racing at full speed. From what Grandpa had just said about him returning from studying abroad and planning to spend the summer with them, it seemed that in this quadrant of space-time, Lucian had never gone missing. Combining that with what Ben had said earlier, Lucian formed a bold guess. The Ben in front of him did not belong to Lucian's original parallel universe, nor did he truly belong to this one. Instead, he likely came from yet another parallel universe. In that universe, Lucian had never obtained the Omnitrix, and this Ben was the true protagonist. That was why he had been able to defeat Vilgax and save Lucian. The reason Lucian was certain this Ben did not come from his own universe was simple. The watch Ben had used was not a replicated Omnitrix, and Ben had clearly emphasized earlier that it was he who had rescued Lucian from Vilgax. Give me a break. In Lucian's original timeline, he had transformed into Wrath and beaten Vilgax senseless himself. Since when did he need Ben to save him? What made things even stranger was that this Ben, like Lucian, seemed to have crossed into this parallel universe for some unknown reason. Both of them retained all their memories, and both of them had lost their Omnitrix. Either out of boredom or mild curiosity, Gwen yawned and walked over to her cousin. Hey, big dweeb. That Vil something you keep talking about, who exactly is he? It's Vilgax, Ben muttered as he rummaged through his treasured box, lips pursed. A terrifying galactic supervillain. Good thing I had the Omnitrix. Back at Mount Rushmore, you and Cuz were both scared out of your minds. At the critical moment, this great hero stepped in, turned into 4 arms, beat Vilgax into the ground, and even destroyed his spaceship. Gwen rested her chin on her hand, nodding now and then, clearly treating it like a bedtime story. After thinking it through, Lucian had more or less figured out his situation. His soul, or rather his memories, had crossed into the Lucian of this parallel universe. But at this point in time, Ben and the others had just started their summer vacation, which meant the Omnitrix had not yet appeared. Perhaps tonight. That meteor falling from the sky would crash into the forest. In the vast cosmos, countless brilliant stars hung suspended, glittering against the darkness. A colossal warship, wrapped in crimson energy, tore through the pitch-black universe like a monstrous steel beast. It was chasing a blue spacecraft, firing relentlessly and bombarding it without pause. Inside the command chamber sat an alien with an octopus-like